To the Board of Commissioners meetings for October 14th, 2014. Our custom is to present the invocation and the pledge before calling our meeting officially to order. This morning, the invocation will be presented by Pastor John Schubert from Living Hope Lutheran Church in Kennesaw. That'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag by Officer Raymond Grinnell, who has been with the Cobb County Police Department for 2 years and is assigned to Precinct 4 in East Cobb. For those that wish to do so, please rise for the invocation and the pledge.
Good morning. Let's pray. Father, as we gather here today, we give you thanks, certainly for all your blessings, for bringing us through a night of storms, and we pray for those who around the country weren't as fortunate. We thank you for the way you work in our lives. We thank you for all your blessings. We thank you for all you've done in the past, what you're doing now, and for all you've promised to do in the future. I pray your blessing upon everything that happens today in this meeting, all the discussions, decisions, that they would just be for the greater good and give glory to you. I thank you for all those who serve and lead. I thank you for this great country we live in, this state, and certainly Cobb County. And I pray your blessing upon all of us, and we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor, and thank you, Officer, for being here with us this morning. I'll now call this meeting to order. Under tab 1, we have presentations. There are 4. We are going to begin with the third quarter Customer Service Excellence Award presentations. The full board would come down to the floor. Mr. Hankerson.
Good morning. We're honored to recognize our quarterly winners for Customer Service Specialists of the quarter. And I tell you, it's so exciting because the focus of this government and what it's all about is customer service. But to give you a little flavor about what we do and how we do it, we have a employee council, and they focus on customer service throughout all of Cobb County, which is supported by elected officials, department head, and supervisors. And the honorees are nominated by peers or customers that visit the facilities. And then there's a review committee. They review the applications, and they select quarterly winners. And then I take the opportunity to go around to the workplace, and we announce them as quarterly winners in the workplace. And I tell you, we get so many reactions because they're busy doing their job. They're not looking for it. They're not aware they were nominated. And they're just so proud of what we do. And I'm going to tell you, we're just so proud of the quarterly winners. We give them a $50 gift card, balloons. They will have their photo displayed in the service centers for one full quarter. They will be on the website so we can tell the world and the employees why we're so proud of them and to keep that focus. They're also eligible to become the Customer Specialist of the Year. To be eligible, you have to be a quarterly winner. So this is beginning, and all we say is keep up the good work. We're so proud of what they do, and that, in my mind, I think that's what set us apart from most of the government is the attitude in the customer service. And also, I just want to thank the Customer Service Council. I'm going to turn it over to Kristen, and she will do the presentations and tell you why we're so proud of these honorees. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hankerson. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and special guests. On behalf of the Customer Service Council, it is a great honor to present the third quarter winners of the Cobb County Customer Service Excellence Award. Today, we will recognize 5 employees. Each of these employees was nominated by their coworkers and supervisors for consistently going above and beyond the call of duty when it comes to providing customer service excellence. This morning, we are pleased to give them formal recognition. Would you please come forward as I call your name? Our first honoree this morning is Chris Bain. Chris is a firefighter 2 on the A shift at Station 19. His main responsibility is fighting fires and responding to emergency medical calls, but Chris goes far beyond that on a daily basis for the department, his community, and Cobb County. In an effort to train firefighters within Cobb County and its surrounding area, Chris created the Franken-Door, a large ornate forcible prop used to train for and practice gaining entry to locked areas. He has committed personal money and multiple hours developing and constructing this door. In addition to his focus on training and always looking for ways for his department and team to improve, Chris assists Canine Companions, an organization that trains dogs to help hearing impaired women. They bring the dogs to the fire station to help the puppies in training get familiar with firefighters, safety gear, and loud noises they may encounter during a fire service operation. He helps with the Metro Atlanta Firefighter Conference, is always the first to greet visitors who stop by the station, and assists the Georgia chapter of the Terry Farrell Firefighters Fund, which brings relief to firefighters and their families facing hardship. Lieutenant Adam Story says Chris, aka the Eel, is vital to Station 19's success, making Company 19A shift the best in Cobb County. Keep up the great work, Chris. You're making a difference in our community and in the lives of Cobb County employees. Our next winner is Tressie Bloodworth. Tressie is a human resources coordinator assigned the primary responsibility for administering the county pension benefits and retiree health care. She assists employees preparing for retirement and resolves benefit administration issues. Her role includes meeting one-on-one with retiring employees and their spouses. Many of these individuals send notes of accolade for the way Tressie explains their benefits and the manner and demeanor in which she presents the information. Some comments include, "The wife and I really thought it was going to be hard and confusing going through the process, but thanks to you, it was not only easy, you made it very comfortable and pleasing." A former director attending a recent retiree meeting had this to say, "I participated in the retirement meeting with Tressie last Friday. I thought she did an excellent job. She was very thorough, gave easy understanding explanations for the retiree, solicited questions through her presentation, and provided copies of all pertinent information to the retiree. She came across as knowledgeable and very caring. Tressie always wants to connect with her customers, both retirees and employees. She recently volunteered to attend an event where retirees would be. When asked about it, her comment was, 'I want to be there to help my retirees.' Thank you, Tressie, for spreading your sunshine into an area and time in our employees' lives that can be uncertain for many. We're lucky to have you as a Cobb County employee." Next, we'll recognize Claudia Goings. Claudia is an animal control assistant with Animal Control. She is often the first person who greets visitors as they enter the shelter. Claudia also handles animal adoptions, reclaims, and surrenders. Claudia's coworkers believe she is the bee's knees when it comes to customer service. Recently, she met a transient man at the shelter who could not afford to feed his animals. Claudia began gathering donated food to give to the man. When he again lacked food and transportation to get his pets, Claudia, with the help of a friend, brought food to his extended stay. When the man began to collect more pets, Claudia assessed the situation. She was able to work with a local charity to get all of his pets spayed and neutered. Claudia helped her neighbor get her pet vaccinated and food to get it back up to weight because she knew the shelter was overwhelmed by owner-surrendered animals. Outside of helping with animals, Claudia takes time to motivate her coworkers to exercise and eat healthy diets by bringing food from home for lunch and encouraging them to walk with her. Claudia, you have definitely found your niche within the county. Thanks for all you do and keep up the great work. Next, we work to recognize Officer Andrew Higgins. However, due to a scheduling conflict, we will recognize him with the fourth quarter winners. Susan Irvin from our library system is our next honoree. Susan is the head of the East Cobb Library Audit Services Department. She provides information service and reader advisory service to patrons at the East Cobb branch. Susan is responsible for conducting outreach to adults and teenagers in the community, which includes planning, promoting, and presenting programs to the groups. Susan continually goes above and beyond in customer service for the library's patrons and her coworkers. During the summer, an 8-year-old boy visiting from Italy wanted to read a specific Harry Potter book, which the library did not have that day. She searched through several boxes of book donations and found a brand new copy of the book the boy wanted. The boy's grandmother sent a note saying, "Hooray for Ms. Irvin. She has made one little 8-year-old very happy." Volunteering for system-wide events is not part of Susan's job, but this year she's volunteered to help with more than 9 events. A few of these events included the 150th anniversary of the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain, enrichment of life movement, Library Foundation Gala, summer reading celebration, and library sale at Jim Miller Park. When the Children's Library at the East Marietta branch resigned, Susan volunteered to present preschool story time at the branch. This required her to work split shifts on Tuesdays for 3 months. Susan, thank you for your professionalism, heart for the library system, and your exceptional customer service. You shine brightly in our community. Our final recipient is Chuck Roshak. Chuck is the Zone 1 supervisor for the water and sewer lines maintenance covering the West Cobb area. The area also includes Ackworth, Kennesaw. He oversees 4 water crews and 3 sewer crews. Chuck accentuates customer service on a daily basis, whether he's working in Cobb County or helping other individuals. He has volunteered in many instances to go above and beyond his position. He also has taken into his volunteering as the Environmental Protection Agency needed testing to be done, and he took those tests voluntarily. He also oversees help with customer service with DOT situations and in areas in customer service, water customer service. Thank you for all you do for the county. We appreciate all you've done. Ladies and gentlemen, these are your third quarter winners for the Customer Service Excellence Award.
Let me say again, congratulations to our quarterly honorees. Thank you for what you do on behalf of the citizens of this county, and a sincere thanks from our Board of Commissioners for what you do each and every day. I know that you couldn't do what you do without family and support. You have a lot of, some of you, I've heard the cheers. With a family and or support team, please stand and show the support you got for these employees. Now we know why you're so motivated, if you got that kind of support. Again, thank you for what you do. Keep up the good work, and we're very, very proud of you.
Item 2 is to present a proclamation to Ms. Mitchell, to be led by Commissioner Ott.
Well, Deborah Mitchell, and I know there's some other folks here with you. Come on up. Good morning. You made it.
Did.
One of the customer service ones was in the same thing. This one, Dynasty Financial story, is one of perseverance. Deborah started the company in August of 2004. With the economic downturn, she closed the office but kept Dynasty Financial operating as a home-based business, assisting families in saving their homes through loan modifications and refinancing. And then in August of 2010, she moved into her current location on Windy Hill Road and is one of the few third-party mortgage brokers still in business in the state. Throughout this time, Dynasty Financial has also actively supported the community through Secret Santa and other community events for local families in need. And so therefore, we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, do hereby honor Deborah Mitchell and Dynasty Financial Consulting for its 10th anniversary. We salute the contributions you've made and your company have made in our community and wish you continued success. You want to introduce who's here with you and tell us a little bit about?
Well, good morning, all. As you know, I'm Deborah Mitchell. This is my assistant, Onita Sims, and this is Mr. Will Sebastian Alexander. And we just want to say thank you all for the opportunity to serve Cobb County. We greatly enjoy helping families stay in their homes and offer great services. We definitely believe in building relationships, and we have done that, and we're happy
Well, thank you.
that we're still in business.
So are we.
Item 3 is to present a proclamation to the Cobb Diaper Day Committee to be led by Commissioner Burrow.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. I have the distinct honor again this year to present a proclamation to the Diaper Day Committee. This was started back in 2009 by Barbara Hickey. I did serve on the very first committee when she put this together. And it's for a great cause. There are several nonprofits that receive the diapers collected. They will be collecting the whole month of October. We do have a bin downstairs on first floor for county employees to bring their diapers to. And on Monday, October 27th, we'll be taking them over to the square to add to the piles of diapers for the needy. So I'm going to introduce Barbara Hickey, and the founder of Diaper Day in Cobb, and let her introduce her committee and tell us what their plans are and what they expect to collect this year to go over the goal.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, it's our 6th year, and although you cannot tell from just the 4 of us who made it out today, I've invited the busiest women and men in Cobb County to be on this committee, and they've said yes, but they're too busy to be here today. But we're here to just say, you know, food stamps are not, do not allow you to get diapers, and we hate that families have to choose between food and diapers. And so we do this, and last year we collected over 100,000 diapers. I hope we can do that again. That's pretty tough to do, I think, in this economy right now, but we'll do our best. We have a great support team and great donors, and they'll be at the square on the 27th, and as Commissioner Burrell knows, the 4 corners of Glover Park, we're there. Young people are there. Older people, like some of us, are there taking diapers and putting them in stacks based on size. And so you don't even have to get out of your car. We just unload your car and bring it to below the stage, and hopefully they'll be as high as the stage. So this is the committee. I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Cheryl Lenny. Helen Story. Rose Swing.
And you've seen a lot of these ladies in other proclamations in the past too. They are the worker bees, and I wish you all the success. In the essence of time, I'm not going to read this out loud, but we're proud of what you do in the community, and we appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Item 4 will be to present a certificate of achievement to Ms. Bonner, to be led by Commissioner Cupid.
Good morning. I can have Ms. Bonner and company come up front. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, ladies. Well, this morning, I have the honor of recognizing someone who is no stranger to Cobb County for her level of activity, but I'm very glad to share with you a recent accomplishment of hers. The Cobb County Board of Commissioners this morning congratulates you on being honored as one of Atlanta's top 100 Black women of influence by the Atlanta Business League. We know that you are very deserving of this prestigious recognition at the Women of Vision Breakfast, a premier event focused on empowering African American women business owners and professionals. Your tireless work with the Cobb County NAACP and other efforts continue to be a shining example of the community advocacy that is so vital to making our society better. We thank you so much for all that you do, and I'm very glad to present you with this recognition today.
I want to say to Commissioner Cupid that it's an honor, and I really want to say publicly how I appreciate that you would step up and just give me this certificate today. One of the things about getting awards of any kind, you know that you didn't do it alone, and that's why I'm glad that I do have Ms. Cook and Ms. Grimes here, and you. Your support that you give us in the community is most appreciated. So I just want to say thank you so very much for just allowing us these few minutes to be with you this morning. And it's never about one person. It's always about collectively doing things. These are persons with me. You can just give them your names. Introduce yourself.
To you all that don't know me, you Mr. Blessing.
Oops, sorry.
I said again, you all that don't know me, Mr. Blessing. My name is Frances Cook, and they call me Missy.
Good morning, and I thank you for this certificate. My name is Joreen Grimes.
Appreciate you guys being here this morning, and thank you
Thank
again.
you.
All right, thank you. You're welcome. Let's take a picture.
Congratulations. Deanne, I know that if there was a top 10, you'd still be in that list. Yeah, I know. See you later. Thank you for being here. Tab 2. Before we go to tab 2, I'd like to take this moment to ask our county clerk to introduce the young lady that's sitting with her this morning.
I'd like to introduce our brand-new Deputy County Clerk, Angela Cunningham. Angela comes to us from the judicial system and has been with Cobb County 17 years. We feel very lucky to have her.
Welcome aboard. So take us to tab 2, Transportation, to conduct a public hearing regarding a proposed amendment to the Austell Road Corridor Livable Centers Initiative Study. Director DeMassimo.
Mr. Chairman, County Commissioners, and County Manager. The Austell Transfer Center Multimodal Improvements is a transit improvement project that includes construction of a Cobb Community Transit Multimodal Transfer Facility with transit-supported pedestrian and bicycle improvements that connect the ATC to destinations within the existing node. The activity area is located near Wellstar Cobb Hospital and the intersection of Austell Road and East-West Connector, which is within the study area of the Austell Road Corridor LCI study. This brings together existing, new, and modified transit routes, flex route service, and other transit services for efficient transit operations in South Cobb. This concept was identified during development of the South Cobb Transit Evaluation and Implementation Plan that was presented to the board on February 25th, 2014, and documented the feasibility of transit service expansion to areas impacted by previous transit service cuts. The Atlanta Regional Commission is preparing to issue a Regional Transportation Improvement Program project solicitation in fall 2014, very soon. That will include a solicitation for LCI Transportation Program funding. The department is preparing to request funding for the ATC, but an amendment to the LCI 5-year plan update is necessary. The proposed amendment will add the ATC concept to the LCI 5-year plan update revised action plan and will allow the project to be included on the list of projects eligible for LCI Transportation Program funding. LCI studies are master plans approved by the board and incorporated into the Cobb County Comprehensive Plan. Therefore, necessary LCI study plan amendments require recommendation by the Planning Commission and authorization by the board. On September 30th, 2014, the department presented the proposed amendment to the LCI 5-year plan update to the Planning Commission during their regular work session meeting, and on October 7th, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the proposed amendment. October 9th, the department hosted a public information open house meeting at the South Cobb Government Service Center to provide an opportunity for the public to learn about the proposed amendment to the LCI 5-year plan update and to provide comments. And today, we request that the Board of Commissioners conduct a public hearing regarding this proposed amendment to the Austell Road Corridor Livable Centers Initiative LCI study 5-year plan update to add the Austell Transfer Center Multimodal Improvements, ATC, to the revised action plan entitled Implementation Plan 2012-2016.
Thank you, Director. We'll now open up the public hearing regarding this item. Is anyone here wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing and hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Director, this is an exciting project in this area of the Cobb County, and we look forward to moving it forward as part of this LCI. Thank you so much. Tab 3, Community Development. Mr. Hozak.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Our first agenda item this morning is to request that the board conduct a public hearing to consider a Chattahoochee Corridor Plan Certificate of Compliance for John and Veronica Mansour, so to construct a single-family residence at 669 Atlanta Country Club Drive. By way of brief background, Mr. Chairman, the Metropolitan River Protection Act requires that any land disturbance proposed within a 1,000-foot corridor along the Chattahoochee River be reviewed by the Atlanta Regional Commission staff in comparison with some protective standards. After a finding is made by the Atlanta Regional Commission, in this instance, they have determined that the land disturbance activities are consistent with the provisions of the protection criteria. We, as the local government wherein the land disturbing activities occur, are required to hold a public hearing prior to issuing a permit and proceeding forward with the development. With that said, Mr. Chairman, this does meet the requirements. The ARC has transmitted their findings to us, and we would request that you open the public hearing, sir.
Thank you. We'll now open the public hearing regarding this item. Is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing and hearing none, the public hearing is closed. At this time, Commissioner Ott, the staff is asking us to approve the Chattahoochee Corridor Certificate.
Right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In light of ARC's findings indicating that all the requirements were met, I'll make a motion to accept and approve the Chattahoochee Corridor Certificate and allow staff to issue a permit.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That'll take us to tab 4, public comment.
You have 3 speakers. The first is Andy Padgett. If you please come forward.
I'm Andy Padgett. I moved to Cobb County in 1976. You have 4,000 street light districts in the county. I'd like to tell you about one of them. Mars Hill Acres Streetlight District has 17 streetlights, 90 houses. Cobb MC charges the county a government rate of $8.64 per light. I got this information from Allison Andes with Cobb EMC. At the government rate of $8.64 times 17 lights, $146.88 a month. Times 12 months is $1,762.56 per year that Cobb pays Cobb EMC for the street lights in my subdivision. You charge us $3.50 per house times 90 houses, $315 a month that we pay the county. Times 12 months is $3,780 per year that we pay the county. If you subtract the cost of the street lights, what you pay to Cobb EMC, that leaves $2,017.44 left over. At $4 per month, there would be $2,557.44 left over per month from our subdivision. Over $2,000 a year goes into the general fund from the streetlight fund to pay for the financing and everybody else that's involved with streetlights. It's not like you've got a room full of people sitting around counting quarters and dividing it out into different funds. Most of the work is done by computers, as you all well know. If the streetlights were turned over to the electric utilities, they've been doing it a lot longer than the county has. The non-government rate is $9.51 per streetlight. They could add it on to our electric bills. The money would be collected. That fee that they charge includes electricity and maintenance. If a street light goes out, we call or get on the internet and notify Cobb EMC. I don't call the county because the county does not perform maintenance. I call the electric utility. The non-government rate is $9.51 per light. Times 17 lights, it'd be $161.67 per month. Divided by 90 houses, that's $1.79 each per month. You're charging us $3.50 and you want to raise it to $4. At $4, it would save us $2,380 per year for my subdivision only. I keep hearing that the county is providing a service. We don't need your service. Let the electric utilities handle the street lights. They've been doing it a lot longer than the county has, and they can do it more efficiently, and it'll cost us less. Everyone in the county who is paying for street lights to the county will save money. I don't understand why the county is in the business. Like I said, the $864 the EMC charges includes maintenance on all the street lights. Please get out of the street light business. You can move the 2 full-time employees who are now in the street light department to other positions in the county. No one has to lose a job, but you will be saving the citizens of Cobb County a lot of money. Again, my name's Andy Padgett. My phone number is on the sign-in sheet. If anybody has questions, please call me.
Thank you, Mr. Padgett. Director Massimo, would you get with Mr. Padgett and see if you can review his situation for us, please? Thank you. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Jennifer Jones, if you'd come forward.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners, for taking the time to hear me this morning for a few minutes. I'm going to be speaking about an issue that's going to be coming up a little bit later in the agenda, tab 11, item number 2, about safety improvements on Mabry Road. My name is Jennifer Jones. I live at 4570 Brigade Court. On May 20th, 2014, my husband and I were awoken in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. by a car crashing onto our home. My first thought when that happened was, oh my God, my children who were in the next room. I ran and grabbed my kids while my husband went outside to survey the scene and see if anybody was out there. He managed to get the gentleman out of the car through the sunroof. The vehicle was flipped over upside down in our home. We were told to get out as soon as possible because the smell of gasoline was so great. So we all went into the cul-de-sac and waited for the police trucks, the whole caravan of everyone to come, and eventually the gentleman was taken away on an ambulance. Me and my family will never ever forget that horrific night, and while we are so, as horrific as it was, we are also so thankful that nobody was killed. My children's bedroom is literally feet from where this accident took place, and it could have easily hit their bedroom. Not only that, the vehicle, if the gentleman driving would have been in a smaller vehicle, he would have definitely been killed on impact. He would just happen to be driving a large SUV. Also, it hit it was very close to hitting a natural gas line by our house. So we were very fortunate that nobody was killed or hurt severely. We just really want to make sure this doesn't happen again. And ironically, we requested this guardrail or a safety barrier of some sort be put up prior to this accident occurring almost over a year ago. And we were then told that the likelihood of an accident happening there is very, very slim. And fast forward 7 months later, and then a car did in fact land on our home. We have the support of our neighborhood, our community. This was very widely televised and shown all over the news and things, and we've gotten an outpouring of support for this guardrail or safety barrier to be put up on Mabry Road. And with that support, I also recognize that there might be some opposition, some people who have different reasons against it. One such thing you may hear as far as opposition is that if they put a safety barrier up on Mabry, there's a possibility that a vehicle would go off the road, hit the safety barrier, and be spit back onto incoming traffic. And what I say to that is, yeah, that's a possibility. There's a possibility a car will be coming. There's a possibility that would happen. But if there is no safety barrier, 100%, it's going to land on my house again. Only next time we may not be so lucky. Another thing you might hear as far as opposition is, well, this was a drunk driver. It did turn out he was under the influence of alcohol. Yes, that is very true, but with all the distractions nowadays, texting, weather, falling asleep at the wheel, whatever it might be, I don't think that's a really good argument to say that human error is not likely to happen again. There's engineer reports, all sorts of things that say it may or may not be warranted, but the bottom line is no one can account for human error on those reports, and that's exactly what happened in this case. And finally, regardless of how many arguments you may hear on why it may or may not be warranted, the bottom line is they are all inconclusive reports on whether or not they are. And one thing that I know is conclusive is that car landed on my house that night and was really close to my children's bedroom. And I know that it can happen again if something isn't done. So I ask the board, please help protect my family, help protect the citizens of Cobb County with a barrier up there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Tom Cheek, if you come forward.
Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Tom Cheek, a resident of District 1. I have a couple of topics today. The most important I'll cover first. In the short time since I last spoke, Zone 3 has lost 3 more experienced officers, meaning that the county will need to spend about $240,000 to recruit, train, and retain the rookie replacements for those experienced officers. Instead of being concerned that others may perceive us as being in a bidding war for police officers, I feel that we should proudly advertise that we're in a bidding war. We should offer retention bonuses for our existing officers and increase pay. Spending $15,000 could have saved us $240,000 in this case. The county manager is kind enough to give us monthly updates on the progress we're making on the stadium. And I think we also need monthly updates on staffing levels at the police department. Most of this board ran for office stating that public safety is first priority. It's time to back those statements up. Next, I'm going to make a statement I thought I would never make. We need more lawyers. We must, because if our county lobbyist is also the chairman's personal advisor for political strategy, as noted in recent emails, then we must not have enough to go around. Mr. Chairman, I encourage you to personally investigate the process that was used to hire this lobbyist. Was there a public hearing? Should you have recused yourself from voting? Did you avoid the appearance of impropriety by not being open about your relationship with him? Should this have been hidden in the consent agenda? Finally, I want to talk about dissent, or rather, reaction to dissent. I've made it known that I'm a person that strongly believes in following the rules, doing a thorough job, and having qualified people in positions that they occupy. I suspected at one point that you, Mr. Chairman, may not have followed the rules. I suspected that you had overstepped your authority, so I researched, I inquired, I requested records. It's not easy to stand up here and talk when you're not used to being a public speaker, and now I'm going to share with you some other things that happen when you do so. Here's a list of things that have been said by you or your attorneys publicly, usually quoted in the newspaper, and these are all about me. I am malicious. I have a vendetta. I'm furious. I am against everything. I am bitter. I am a political demagogue. I had to look that one up. I have a hidden agenda. I'm disingenuous. I'm desperate. I am petty. These are all direct quotes. And I have ulterior political motives. Anyone that has observed me in this room over the past 2 years or has taken the time to have a conversation with me knows these descriptions to be false. I'm being described by your attorneys as part of an anti-Braves axis of evil. In truth, I am for economic development of all kinds. If our county isn't growing and our population is, we're in trouble. Even in what has become or will become our urban area, if we're not renewing, then we are encouraging blight. I have spoken here many times. I've never spoken against economic development or against the Braves move. If I had felt strongly about it, I would have said so. Now I have a private investigator investigating me and another public speaker who disagreed with your political decisions, along with 2 members of this board. I want to know if that's the price one pays for public comment. But as a private citizen speaking here, I have to run through a gauntlet of private investigators and your personal attorneys. Full disclosure, if they're a good private investigator, they're going to find out something about me that will not look good. In late 1984 or early 1985, I did buy a New York Yankees baseball cap. And I put it on my son, and he had a picture taken of him. So that's the most you can find about my anti-Braves sentiment. But my son is named after Phil Niekro, and at the time the Braves had cut him and he had moved to the Yankees. That's why that happened. But Mr. Chairman, once a government has committed to the principle of silencing the voice of opposition, it only has one way to go, down the path of increasingly repressive measures. Instead of heading down that path, I ask you to be responsible for your actions instead of attacking the person that revealed them. By your actions, you've let it be known that you do not recognize this board as the sole governing authority of the county. Every action here is now clouded until you clear the air. With every vote, there can be supported concern that the vote was predetermined by you, your advisors, and the chairman and the Chamber of Commerce. The way to remove this cloud is by admitting any mistakes, apologizing for overstepping your authority, and putting all of this behind you. Encourage the Chamber of Commerce to be open about the process. Tell Brooks to open the books on his communications with Attorney McRae and the Braves.
Thank you, Mr. Cheek.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other speakers? Thank you. That'll take us to tab 5. Before we take the items up in our consent agenda, I will present a motion to add the following non-agenda item to this agenda for consideration. Under tab 5, item 26, the consent agenda to authorize the set of Horizon Technical Systems, Inc. versus Cobb County, Georgia. Is there a second to add this? There's a second. Is there any comment? Call the question. Carries 5-0, which meets the requirements of our rules for adding a non-agenda item. I will now present a motion that we approve the consent agenda as revised and authorize the execution of the necessary documents for the appropriate county personnel. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much, Commissioners. That'll now take us to tab number 6, Transportation. Item 1, we are going to pull from the agenda and consider at our next regularly scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting. So we begin with item 2.
Yes, sir. Item 2 is to approve the proposed revised budget and schedule for the 2011 Transportation Improvements Program funded primarily by the 2011 Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax. The proposed revised budget for the 2011 SPLOST TIP includes all projects approved at the inception of the program, all previous board-approved new budget transfers and adjustments to various projects, and will be funded primarily with the 2011 SPLOST revenues and interest. Other potential funding sources include the Georgia Department of Transportation, the Cumberland Community Improvement District, the Town Center Area Community Improvement District, and miscellaneous revenues. The department also requests authorization to add the South Barrett Reliever Phase 2 project to the thoroughfare improvements component of the 2011 SPLOST TIP, as additional funding from the Town Center Area CID has been identified for this project. The proposed budget revision represents an increase to the 2011 SPLOST TIP in the amount of $15,871,846, which is due to the appropriation of GDOT, Town Center CID, and Cumberland CID revenues anticipated for the I-75 Windy Hill Road interchange and South Barrett Reliever Phase 2, and the recognition of revenues received for interest earnings, developer contributions, and miscellaneous revenue sources. We request the Board of Commissioners approve the proposed revised budget and schedule for the 2011 Transportation Improvements Program funded primarily by the 2011 Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, and authorize the corresponding budget transactions.
Thank you, Director. Commissioners, I will bring this forward in the form of a motion as presented by the Director. Is there a second? Any questions? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Item 3, please.
To approve project number E4120-TO number 01 to the 2014 Master Task Order Contract with AECOM Technical Services for engineering design services of I-285 auxiliary lanes between US 41 and Paces Ferry Road. I-285 between the US 41 Cobb Parkway and Paces Ferry Road interchanges currently experiences heavy congestion in the peak hours. The close proximity of the interchanges creates a weave condition between entering and exiting vehicles. This weave and congested flow, combined with heavy volumes from the arterials, short entrance ramps, and poor geometry, contribute to backups on these entrance ramps that will spill onto the arterials. The department recommends approval of a task order to identify potential improvements to relieve the levels of congestion experienced on the I-285 ramps between US 41 Cobb Parkway and Paces Ferry Road, and the subsequent effects on local arterial roads. Up to 4 alternatives will be developed and evaluated to determine the best solution. We request the Board of Commissioners approve project number E4120-TO number 01 to the 2014 Master Task Order Contract with AECOM Technical Services, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $106,374.40 for engineering design services of I-285 auxiliary lanes between US 41 and Paces Ferry Road. Authorize the corresponding budget transaction, and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Thank you. Commissioner
Ott. Motion to approve.
Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Item 4, please.
To approve project number E4130-TO number 01 to the 2014 Master Task Order Contract with Gresham Smith and Partners for engineering design services of I-75 Circle 75 ramp. This project involves the concept development of a separate ramp diverging from the I-75 southbound off-ramp to Windy Hill Road, which would pass under Windy Hill Road where the existing loop ramp is located. It would further cross the Windy Hill Road southbound on-ramp to I-75 where a new bridge or underpass would be constructed. This new bridge or underpass would continue southward, curving to the west to intersect Circle 75 directly opposite Herodian Way. We request that the Board of Commissioners approve project number E4130-TO number 01 to the 2014 Master Task Order Contract with Gresham Smith and Partners in an amount not to exceed $62,654 for engineering design services of I-75 Circle 75 ramp. Authorize the corresponding budget transaction and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Thank you, Commissioner Ott.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Item 5, please.
To approve supplemental agreement number 1 to resurfacing contract 2013-3 local roads north with Baldwin Paving Company for resurfacing of county-maintained streets. Resurfacing is an approved component in the 2011 SPLOST Transportation Improvements Program. On June 11, 2013, the Board of Commissioners approved a contract with Baldwin Paving Company for resurfacing of 173 local streets, totaling 35.94 miles within Commission Districts 1 and 3. During resurfacing, the unforeseen poor subbase condition of many of the streets in this contract caused the actual patching quantities required to significantly exceed estimated contract quantities. Many of these roads were in older subdivisions that had no subbase material and only 1 inch to 2 inches of asphalt. In order to provide a stabilized, long-lasting pavement section in these older subdivisions, substantially more patching was required. To date, the contractor has completed 133 of the streets included in the contract. To complete the remaining 40 streets, additional patching, milling, and asphalt quantities will be required. In addition, due to the extensive time associated with the increased patching, the department recommends extending the contract completion date to December 31st, 2014. We recommend that the Board of Commissioners approve supplemental agreement number 1 to resurfacing contract 2013-3 local roads north with Baldwin Paving Company in an amount not to exceed $1,206,434 for resurfacing of county-maintained streets, project number E9100. Authorize the corresponding budget transaction and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Thank you. I'll bring this forward in the form of a motion as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Item 6, please.
To approve change order number 1 final to the resurfacing contract 2012-1 local maintenance and improvement grant countywide major thoroughfares with Baldwin Paving Company for resurfacing of county-maintained streets. Resurfacing is an approved component in the 2011 SPLOST Transportation Improvements Program. We request that the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 1 final, a net savings of $632,603.79 to resurfacing contract 2012-1 local maintenance and improvement grant LMIG countywide major thoroughfares with Baldwin Paving Company for resurfacing of county-maintained streets. MIS contract number 000551, which includes a savings in the amount of $623,791.77 to project number E9010 and an increase in the amount of $24,513.53 to project number E6080 and a savings in the amount of $33,325.55 to project number D4010. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll bring this forward as well as in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Item 7, please.
To approve change order number 2 final to the contract with CMES Inc. for thoroughfare and roadway improvements on Jamerson Road, project number D4120, Jamerson Road, Wiggly Road, project number D6120, and school zone improvements at Kell High School. Jamerson Road and Jamerson Road, Wiggly Road thoroughfare and roadway improvements and Kell High School zone improvements are approved projects in the 2005 SPLOST Transportation Improvements Program, and we request the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 2 final to the contract with CMES Inc., a savings to the project in the amount of $858,091.44 for thoroughfare and roadway improvements on Jamerson Road, project number D4120, Jamerson Road, Wiggly Road, project number D6120, and school zone improvements to Kell High School, project number D8100. MIS contract number 000385, and authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Burrow.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve. Second.
Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Director. Tab 7 is Public Services Agency. Mr. Canny.
Morning, Chairman, Commissioners, County Manager. This morning we have 9 items. The first item
Today is for the Board of Commissioners to approve a contract with Integrated Construction and Nobility Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $1,217,450.36 for the construction services related to the redevelopment of Fair Oaks Park. This comes under the 2011 Park SPOS program, and I ask that you authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Gorham.
So moved.
Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Item 2, please.
The next item is for the Board of Commissioners to approve a contract with Integrated Construction and Nobility Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $416,907.94, on which half will be paid by the county and half will be paid by the city of Ackworth for the construction services related to a new parking lot at Kenworth Park under the 2011 Park SPOS program. Ask that you authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Gorham.
Motion to approve.
Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Item 3, please.
The next item is for the Board of Commissioners to approve an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Ackworth to govern payments by each party for construction services related to the new parking lot at Kenworth Park. This comes under the 2011 Park SPOS program and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Gorham.
So moved.
Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Item 4, please.
Item number 4 is for the Board of Commissioners to approve a contract with McCallum Group LLC in amount not to exceed $646,287 for the construction services related to the replacement of a concession restroom building and addition of a new restroom building at Lost Mountain Park. This comes under the 2011 Park SPOS program. Ask that you authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Thank you. Commissioner Gorham.
Yes, just a comment, and I think Mr. LaRue is in the audience, but want to thank the MDJ for their very fine coverage of the SPLOST projects. I know many of us have been called out for photo opportunities, and it's nice to show off what's going to take place with the SPLOST. So thank you, Ricky. Motion to approve.
Motion and second. Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Commissioner. Item 5, please.
Then the next item is for the Board of Commissioners to approve a final closeout supplement agreement and deductive change order number 1 to the contract with Aqua Underground Incorporated, reducing the contract amount of $4,000 for a revised total contract amount of $133,675 for construction services and materials related to the installation of a new irrigation system at Terrell Mill Park. This comes under the 2011 Park SPLOS program. Ask that you authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Ott.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Item 6, please.
The next item is to approve a contract with Southern Architects and Engineers, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $60,500 for the professional design and construction administrative services for replacement of the office building at Noonday Creek Park. This comes under the 2011 Park SPLOS program, and I ask that you authorize the corresponding transactions and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Burrow.
Yes, before I make a motion to approve, I'd like to say with the recent improvements to the fields at Noonday Creek, this will be another enhancement, and we appreciate the hard work from Parks and Rec. So with that, I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Next item, please.
I would like to say with that last item that the facility at Noonday will include a community building for community meetings and those type of things at Noonday Park. So
great.
Should have included that. The next item is for the Board of Commissioners to approve a contract with All Star Lighting and Electrical Service Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $420,000 for the installation of the surface and subsurface electrical improvements at Jim Miller Park. This comes under the 2011 Park SPLOS program, and I ask that you authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Thank you. Commissioner Cupid.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Item 8, please.
The next item is for the Board of Commissioners to approve a contract with QT Contracting Incorporated, DBA Powers Heating and Air, in an amount not to exceed $103,582 for the construction services related to the installation of a new HVAC equipment at Jim R. Miller Park, Building B. This comes under the 2011 Park SPOS program. Ask that you authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Thank you. Commissioner Cupid.
Motion to approve.
Any comments? Call the question. The motion carries 5-0. Item 9, please.
Final item is for the Board of Commissioners to approve a contract with Betty Construction Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $490,000 for the construction services related to the replacement of concession restroom building at Traymore Park. This comes under the 2011 Park SPOS program, and I ask that you authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Cupid.
Yes, motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
It takes us to tab 8, Support Services Agency. Morning, John.
Morning, Chairman, Commissioners, County Manager. Our item deals with the 2011 SPLOST of a replacement of concrete pavement for Fire Station 23. We've received 3 quotes on this project, and the Department and Fire recommend that the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with CNS Paving, the low bidder, in the amount of $40,800 for the 2011 SPLOST paving project at Fire Station 23, located at 3470 New Macklin Road, Powder Springs, Georgia.
Commissioner Cupid.
Yes, motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Next item is Public Safety. Director Heaton.
Good morning, Chairman, Board, County Manager. Here to authorize the acceptance of a sealed bid from Georgia Fire Rescue Supply for the 2011 SPLOST purchase of replacement thermal imaging cameras. In July 22nd of this year, the Board of Commissioners authorized Cobb Fire to solicit sealed bids from interested manufacturers. Georgia Fire Rescue Supply was the low bidder, as well as their Bullard TI camera met all bid specifications. And with that, looking to purchase 60 thermal imaging cameras, associated equipment, warranties, and existing trade-ins. Therefore, I'm asking the Board to authorize the acceptance of sealed bid 14-5964 for Georgia Fire Rescue Supply for the 2011 SPLOST purchase of 60 replacement thermal imaging cameras in the amount of $464,687.64, and to authorize the related appropriations for the funds for this purpose.
Thank you. Commissioner Burrow.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Director. Item 10, Community Development. Mr. Johnson.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, County Manager. My name is Dan Johnson with Cobb County Community Development. The original item that was to be considered today was for adoption of a resolution amendment to Chapter 114 of the Cobb County Code as it relates to the Six Flags Special Service District. Staff and Community Development and the County Attorney's Office, in final review of the code adoption procedures, noticed a gray area regarding our ability to consider this item today. In discussions with the Board of Commissioners, it was determined that additional legal advertisement and public hearings would be held to provide additional public input opportunities given the length of time that occurred between the time when the last hearing had happened. This will also clear up any ambiguity that existed as it relates to the code and the timing of code regarding the legal notices provided. At the request of the sponsoring commissioner, staff has prepared a substitute resolution that makes the case for action in the Six Flags area and provides the exact procedures and processes that will be followed in order for the board to make final consideration of this item. Legal announcements were submitted to our local organ yesterday to provide the required public notice. Public hearings will be heard on this on October 28th and on November 11th. After the meeting on November 11th, the board will be able to take final adoption of the resolution amendment as it relates to Section 114 of the Cobb County Code. If this were to be approved by the Board of Commissioners on November 11th, this would go into effect January 1, 2015, as far as the 2015 tax year. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have in regard to this particular item today.
Thank you, Dana. Commissioner Cupid.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Johnson, for bringing to our attention the need for additional public review, or at least opportunity to do such, and hope that people will take advantage of that. I believe there was one question of where the public hearings would be held, When we had them last time, there was one held at the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority meeting and a second one held here.
The two public hearings, because this is part of the Cobb County Code process, both public hearings will be held here as part of the normal agenda of the Board of Commissioners. Is that correct, County Attorney?
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Well, shall we move forward with the motion for adoption of the resolution?
That is certainly eligible if you wish to do so, Commissioner.
Okay, very good. I'd like to make a motion to approve or to adopt the resolution.
Thank you. It's second by Commissioner Gorham. Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Dana. Tab 11, Board of Commissioners tab. The first item, Commissioners, is to the Board of Directors through the County Manager, through my office, to recommend the appointment of a new Information Services Director. As you know, we've been through an extensive and exhaustive search looking for the right person. We believe we have found that person in Ms. Sharon Stanley. Are you here, ma'am? If you would, thank you. Thank you very much for being here today. So it is we've all had an opportunity to meet with her, and we believe she'll be a tremendous asset and contribution to our success as an organization. As such, I bring forward the recommendation and ask for your approval of the appointment of Sharon Stanley as the Information Services Director. Is there a second? There's a second. Any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Welcome aboard. That'll take us to item 2 to be presented by Commissioner Burrow.
Thank you. Earlier under public comment, you heard from Mrs. Jones, and her husband, Ms. Brent Jones, is in the audience as well today. The request for a guardrail, which has now become a safety barrier for Mabry Road in the section by Garrison Oaks subdivision, and in the vicinity of their house, 4570 Brigade Court, actually was made about a year and a half ago when there was a zoning across the street. There was concern about the issue of safety of a car going off the embankment, and the worst fear of these neighbors in their surrounding area came to light, actually happened May of this year. So I'm bringing forward this item because of the concern of safety for the area, Mabry Road area, and I would like to make a motion. Well, do we need discussion first, or?
Yeah, make a motion first.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to approve the design and installation of a safety barrier on Mabry Road in the vicinity of 4570 Brigade Court, and direct DOT to keep the district commissioner and the county manager in the loop throughout the process of the design, bid process, and implementation.
I've got a motion and a second. My understanding that when this project is designed and the costs are arrived at, it'll have to come back to the board for approval at that time as well?
And, it depends on the way the motion is. It may or may not. It depends on the final estimates of the contract and all of that, so. Because it's being designed, Mr. Chairman, but it'll also have to be put out to bid.
Right.
By a private contractor.
So we're allocating $200,000 for the project.
Right.
And if it comes in more than that, if the bid comes in more than that?
It definitely will have to come back.
If it comes in less, it'll be a whole different issue.
Yeah, and I'll verify that with Mr. Tommy, but.
Okay, and this is being brought forward by it's being brought forward by the two commissioners, right?
Right.
And not by staff.
Right.
Are there any other comments?
I have a comment, Mr. Chairman. I know that all of us on this board advocate for the safety of our citizens every day, and I would like very much to support this agenda item. However, this agenda item does not include any professional staff analysis, any staff comments, or any staff recommendations. This is highly unusual and troublesome to me, and therefore I cannot support this motion.
Any other comments? Call the question. The motion carries 3-2. Commissioner Gorham and Lee in opposition. Thank you. Tab 12 is community development hearings. We're going to take a 4-minute break to get us to the, I can't see the clock back there, but we're going to come back in 5 minutes to start tab number 12. Board of Commissioners meeting for October 14th. We are at tab 12, community development hearings. We have 4 items on the agenda. Counselor, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. County Manager, Madam County Attorney. We do have 4 items today, although I think the 4th one may be a no-show, but we'll determine that when we get to that point. And I know 2 of these we heard previously, but because we didn't have a full quorum at that time, we had to rehear them. So we'll try to be very succinct, even though it is a de novo hearing and we will need to lay out the facts. We'll try to do that as expeditiously as possible. The first item that we have, Mr. Chairman, is a hearing on an application for a taxi cab driver's permit for Mr. Gregory Thomas while working at Victory Cab. This matter came before the License Review Board on September 10th of this year, and the board voted 3-2 to recommend denial of this application. And I want to be very clear about the basis for this, and I believe you have this information in your agenda packet. Mr. Thomas had 4 citations within a 12-month period of time, which typically is a violation that would be the basis for a denial of an application for the renewal of his taxi cab permit. However, one of those violations was for driving on a withdrawn license. Now that in and of itself, I do not believe is a moving violation. I do not believe that the Department of Driver Services assigns points to that type of violation. So that criteria in and of itself would not serve as the basis for denying his application for renewal of his permit. The problem is that driving without a valid license when you're driving a cab is in and of itself a violation that could serve as the basis for a denial if that is the board's pleasure. So these 4 violations that are listed on this application could be considered as far as aggravating circumstances, but they cannot be the actual basis for a denial. So we'd be looking primarily at the fact that at that time he was driving with a license that was withdrawn. And I believe Mr. Thomas will stipulate to all of that. But I just want to be very clear what the basis of that was. And if it is the pleasure of the board to deny it, and I'm not suggesting one way or the other at this point, we need to articulate that in the motion just so that it's clear what that basis would be. Again, that is a violation of section 126-171C3, where you must have all of the qualifications that you would have to have as an initial applicant for a taxi cab permit. And if at any point you don't have that while you're operating a taxi cab, which is what happened in this case, then you're subject to denial upon the application for renewal of that permit. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to swear in the witnesses and proceed with our case.
Okay, let me just clarify one event. It was denied procedurally by the Cobb County License Review Board.
Correct.
Or by the staff rather, but on the Cobb County Review Board did appeal, heard the appeal, and it was approved 3-2, correct?
The License Review Board recommended that the application be denied. They recommended approval of the denial, of the recommendation of denial. So this is an appeal by Mr. Thomas to this board.
Okay, our records reflect differently in our agenda item.
Did it? Well, that's not the information that I had or that I recall. Either way,
okay,
was this item pulled as from the consent?
From consent.
Yeah, we'd just like
Okay.
to be clear as to what the License Review Board did.
Okay, then I may have misspoken, and I apologize for that if I did.
As stated in our paperwork, it states that the License Review Board recommended approval of the taxi cab driver permit for Gregory Thomas.
You're correct. I'm sorry, and I
Okay.
did misstate that. I misread
Okay.
my own handwriting. Madam
Okay,
Commissioner.
not a problem. So it was denied procedurally by staff.
Correct.
Appealed to the License Review Board, and they recommended approval
Correct.
on a 3-2 vote.
My
Uh,
apologies on that.
That was not affirmed and was pulled by the board and is here for this hearing. So if you would proceed, Mr. Hensley, thank you.
Yes, indeed. If you'll be testifying in this hearing or believe that you'll be testifying, if you would stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this proceeding shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say, I do. Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like to call Sergeant Bonnie Smith.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Could you introduce yourself to the board, please?
Yes, I'm Bonnie Smith with the Cobb County Police Department, Permits Regulatory Services Unit.
And how long have you been employed there, Sergeant Smith?
In that unit, right at 5 years.
And how long have you been employed by the Cobb County Police Department?
Just over 24 years.
Okay. And what are your duties in general as part of the Regulatory Services and Permits Unit?
We are in charge of regulating businesses that have privileged licenses such as alcohol, taxi services, pawn shops, precious metal dealers.
And are you familiar with Mr. Gregory Thomas, who is the subject of this hearing today?
I am.
And how are you familiar with him, ma'am?
He came into our office in August of this year to make application for a renewal of a permit that he had to drive for Victory Cab. And at that time, my staff reviewed his records and determined he had 4 citations in a 12-month period and administratively denied his application.
And can you tell us about those violations that you discovered in his background check or his driving record?
Yes, on April 25th of 2014, he received a speeding ticket going 63 and a 45 from City of Marietta. On November 20th of 2013, Norcross, he pled no load contendere to a speeding ticket and 68 and a 45 mile an hour zone. On June 19th, 2013, he was cited by Marietta again for failure to obey a stop sign. He pled guilty to that citation. And on May 13th, 2013, driving with a license withdrawn. And those are violation dates that I gave you, not disposition dates.
And could you give us the disposition dates very quickly of
Yes,
those?
I'm sorry. The disposition date for the one I just spoke about, the driving with this license withdrawn, was October 17th of 2013. Disposition date for the failure to obey a stop sign was October 17th, 2013. Speeding in Norcross, January 21st of 2014. Speeding in Marietta, July 10th, 2014.
And just to clarify, is it your understanding that driving with a license that is withdrawn, is that a moving violation under Georgia law?
It is not.
Okay. But it is a violation of your taxi cab permit requirements, is that correct? In other words, in order to apply for a taxi cab permit, you've got to have a valid license under the state of Georgia.
Correct.
And at any point that you do not have such a qualification, that would subject your license, or your permit rather, to review. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Sir, I suspect that you're Mr. Thomas. Do you have any questions or comments for the sergeant?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Does the board have any questions?
Yeah. Do the boards have any questions for the sergeant?
Yes, just one clarifying question. The first speeding incident that you shared, I have April 25th, 2014. Is that correct?
Sorry, let me find that sheet again.
Sorry.
That was the last one.
Okay. That was
the final one.
Okay.
The latest one, that was the
latest one.
violation date, April 25th, 2014, with a disposition date of
Yeah.
7/10 of 2014.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Were any of the speeding violations or the failure to stop, was that while driving the cab with passengers?
I'm not aware of the first three. It is my understanding that the driving with a withdrawn license was in fact in a taxi cab.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record, you have no questions, Sergeant, right, sir? Mr. Thomas? Thank you.
And that's all the witnesses that I have, Mr. Chairman. So
Okay.
Mr. Thomas would like to make a statement now. He certainly may.
Mr. Thomas? If you'd please come on up.
Good morning, Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Gregory Thomas, and I've been driving for Victory Cab for 5 years here in Cobb County. And this year, I had got 4 moving violations. And I apologize for getting these moving violations. And it was the reason why I had got moving violations. One of them in Norcross was I had picked up a fare, and I took him to Norcross in Gwinnett County. The guy, he didn't have any, he said he was gonna pay with credit card first, and then by the time I got to Gwinnett County, he just ended up, talking about he got cash, and by the time I pulled over so I could get the money up front, because I was already in Gwinnett County going towards his destination, he told me to stop the car so he could look for the cash. I did, and he jumped out the car and ran. I was in Gwinnett County, I was speeding. I was trying to look for the guy, but I wasn't able to find him. That's when Norcross Police pulled me over and gave me a ticket for speeding. In Marietta, I had got another speeding ticket right in Cobb Parkway. In the beginning of this year, it's been another type of transportation service that came about, and it's called Uber. And Uber is there in Cobb County. Any vehicle could be for hire, and anyone can pick up anybody and just pick them up now off of Uber. They don't have to get no permit in the city of Cobb County, also in Atlanta. And that kind of had the Victory Cab business. It's like slow. Wasn't making enough money. Around that time period, I came out to work at nighttime, and it was very slow. And our main goal was to go ahead and pick up the passengers as soon as possible, drop them off at their destination, and keep moving. And at that time period, Cobb Parkway, I was going past the speed limit, and I also got that ticket for there. My license being suspended, my license was withdrawn while I was driving the cab. I didn't know my license was withdrawn. I had paid a ticket the day before online, but it didn't go through, and I had to go to court for that ticket. And when I got pulled over for the police, they told me that my license was withdrawn. It wasn't suspended, but it was withdrawn, and I had to get it fixed. It was no passenger in that car. The other two, the one in Marietta and Cobb Parkway, there was no passengers there. I just dropped off my passenger, and I was on route to another call at a hotel on Cobb Parkway. Since August 27th, I haven't had my permit, and I haven't been working at all since August 27th. I went ahead and took a defensive driving class to take all the points off of my driver's record. So at this moment in time, I have 0 points on my record, and this is my first defensive driving class that I ever took. I had my license since 1995. And that class for the defensive driving class really helped me out a lot, because, it's been a long time since I ever took a written test for driving. And ladies and gentlemen of the board, I try my best. I'm always safe on the road. I haven't had no accidents ever in my lifetime, especially 5 years of driving with Victory Cab. No accidents, no type of, and these are my first actual tickets that I ever got. If you look at my MVR, my first ticket that I ever got was in 2012, and it was a speeding ticket.
Thank you, sir.
Laura.
Mr. Hensley, do you have any questions for Mr. Thomas?
Briefly, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Clarify for me, Mr. Thomas, did any of those moving violations that you received, did you have a passenger or fare in your car?
No, I didn't.
And none of the three that were moving violations?
Yeah, no, I didn't have no fare at that time.
When you were given the citation for driving on a withdrawn license, why were you stopped initially?
Well, it was over there. It was on Kennestone Hospital, and
Mr. Thomas,
Speak into the
thank you.
mic.
it was on. It was near Kennestone Hospital. The lights wasn't working at that time. I think it was raining or something, and I went through that light, and the cops just had pulled me over, and just to check people's credentials and everything else. And when he checked my license was actually withdrawn.
Did he say why he did not give you a citation for running the red light?
Because of the lights was blinking and stuff, so he didn't give me a citation for running the light.
So he cut you a break, but he
Yeah.
did give you the citation.
Yeah, for the withdrawn license.
And you made the statement, sir, that you drive very safely, that you
Yes.
never have an accident. But you do understand, do you not, that these types of offenses, speeding, running red lights, running stop signs, those are the things that typically cause accidents, correct?
Yes, I do.
And you understand the importance of that with you driving the public around Cobb County, that it could be an accident waiting to happen.
Yes, I do, and I'm always safe every time I'm out driving. The stop sign, running the stop sign, I didn't run the stop sign, but I kind of yield. And it was a time, I remember that time, it was on Fairground, and Fairground and Roswell Street, I had picked up, it was a passenger I think I picked up, but they came out the car, they didn't have the money to pay for the fare. So when I made a turn and came down from the backside of Fairground, and I kind of yielded and went along with the past the stop sign, and that's when the cop pulled me over.
So do you find yourself in a hurry often when you're trying to pick up a fare or get a fare to their destination?
No, not all the time. It was, like I said, during this year, that's when Uber came in town, and we were actually, trying to pick up the passengers at within 10 to 15 minutes. And in Victory, we have a computer where we're able to bid trips. Like for example, if I'm on Fairground and Roswell Street, I could actually bid a trip it's called the 8 Zone, and that's towards Cumberland Mall, and we'll bid the call, and we'll receive the call, and we'll have 10 minutes to pick up the passengers. And around that time, that's when Uber came to town. The manager of Victory Cab took it to court with Uber, and they still said that any car could be for hire in Cobb County. So therefore, we was picking up the passengers at a certain time. Since then, Uber been kind of putting themselves down because of the things that's going on in the news and stuff like that with Uber. A lot of people don't trust the drivers. They're not having actual documents to drive the cab. So Uber since then been kind of losing their customers.
That's all the questions I have, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Mr. Thomas, can you describe the circumstances of the license withdrawn charge and what the outcome of that was?
Well, the license withdrawn is also, I think, is driving with a suspended license, and at that time, like I said, I didn't know my license was suspended, and it's about you always have to have your license with you at all times, and have to be issued and valid.
And did you, after you were notified that your license was in that status, did you continue to drive, or was that clarified before you drove
no.
any further?
No, I didn't. The cop told me I could just park the car, And we called the base, the dispatch, and the dispatch sent another cab to come drive my cab. And then I went home I paid another cab driver to take me home. And then the next day I went and cleared it up in court.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question for Mr. Thomas. Why was your license suspended?
My license was suspended because of one of these I had a ticket to pay, and I had a failure to appear to court. And instead of me appearing to court, I went and I paid it online, but it was too late, and therefore that's where my license got withdrawn.
And what was the ticket for, issued for?
It was for one of these citations.
Commissioner, that probably would be the failure to stop because both of those tickets were paid on the same date, 10/17/13.
Yes.
Failure to stop.
A moving violation on 6/9. I have here the 6/19/13 moving violation, which was dispositioned on 10/17/13. Yeah, thinking you had to be affiliated with that.
Okay.
Any other comments from Mr. Thomas or questions? Thank you, sir. If you,
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Hensley, where do we find ourselves?
I think the evidence speaks for itself, Mr. Chairman. Clearly, we have a situation that has developed in this county and elsewhere in this country where taxi cab companies that may be competing with these other types of car services like Uber and Lyft may be putting themselves in a dangerous spot by driving too fast, which has happened repeatedly now in the last year or so with Mr. Thomas. And I would point out too, I myself am not real clear on the violation for his license being withdrawn is stated as May 13, 2013.
Right.
The violation for failure to obey the stop sign, which the county attorney is correct, was disposed of on the same date, happened later, June 19, 2013. So I myself am not clear on why he was given or what he was stopped for at that time. Nonetheless, there is a basis there under our code simply for him having not maintained the licensing requirements for driving a taxi cab for the board to deny this application if they see fit. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, do you have any further comments you'd like to make? Thank you so much, sir. This is back to the board and Commissioner District 1. Commissioner Gorham, would you lead our conversation?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I have to admit that I don't have a high confidence level in trusting the safety of passengers within your cab. I understand that most of your violations were when you didn't have passengers in your cab, but that's not to say that bad habits, excessive speed, could not take place during your business operations. There are numerous occurrences where you didn't act responsibly, and that's cause for concern. And I understand you have not been driving this year because you've applied for your permit for 14. This board, as we chatted about, is charged with seeing that our citizens are safe, and issuing permits is a privilege and not a right. And I have to say that I would be, and I'll open it up for discussion for this board here, I would be most comfortable with denying your taxi cab driver permits for not maintaining your licensure requirements. That would have to be the basis for it for 14, and then you, I guess, are able to apply for a permit in 15 and hoping that with your defense, am I wrong? Or, hopefully with your defensive driving course that you took, along with suspending your permit or not allowing you to have a permit for an entire year, we'll see a change in your general driving habits. Mr. Hensley, am I incorrect as far as the issuance of the permit or the time frame on this? Or
It is important to point out that these are not done on an annual basis. They're done as they come in. So if he is denied today, and I believe Sergeant Smith can attest to this, he'll have to wait 12 months before he's eligible to
12
apply
months.
again. Yes.
Okay.
Just wanted to make that clear.
And seeing that the last speeding violation was April of this year, I see that 12-month requirement not being onerous. We've had a most recent display of irresponsibility, but I'll open it up to the rest of the board.
So, I mean, just before we get into discussion, I'd like for you would to present a motion and we'll get it second
Okay.
for discussion.
Okay.
So,
My motion would be that we deny the approval of the taxi cab driver permit for Mr. Gregory Thomas based on the fact for not maintaining the licensure requirements for said permit.
thank you.
Second.
There's just multiple seconds. Now we're open for discussion. Is there any comments from the board?
I have comment.
Commissioner Ott?
I agree with Commissioner Gorham, and one of the things, and I can understand when you talk about Uber and things like that, but just because there's competition in the industry doesn't mean that you go and violate the law. The speed limits are there for public safety, your own safety, and my concern is that in the interest of trying to outdo the competition, there was no thought about the fact about violating the law. So I strongly support Commissioner Gorham.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I agree too with Commissioner Gorham, and I just think, first of all, he doesn't meet the requirements for issuing the license, and due to the fact that of the 4 violations, so I totally support it as well.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes.
Commissioner Cupid?
And I hate that I didn't ask the gentleman a question.
Is your mic on?
Sorry?
Is your mic
Oh,
on?
excuse me. Thank you, Chairman. I didn't ask the gentleman a question, which I would like to ask. Were these violations, were they all in your taxi cab, or were any of these in your personal vehicle?
Come forward, sir, please.
Yes, they were all in my taxi cab.
Okay, and you have the ability to still drive on your personal license.
Yes, I do.
What confidence could you provide to this board? And
Are we, excuse me, just before we go, I just got to make sure we're allowed to enter
don't know
more
if I can
information
still-
even after the motion's been made. I mean, we're asking follow-up questions after we've closed the hearing.
I think it depends upon the will of the board.
Okay, what is the will of the board? Do we want to continue the questioning? No problems, thank you.
I mean, I haven't heard anything that really would give this board any confidence that lesson learned, this wouldn't occur again.
And the lesson, I learned the lesson since August 27th. I've been out of work. I haven't had any money. I'm about to be put out of my house. And like I said, I've been driving for Victory for 5 years. These 4 moving violations happened 1 year out of this 5 years. I haven't got no tickets 4 years, 3 for all them other years. I'm a very good driver out here in Cobb County. Safety is my first priority. I know I messed up and I caught these 2 speeding tickets, that 1 stop sign, and I apologize for that, Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the board.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions for Mr. Thomas? Thank you, sir. Are there any comments from the board?
Okay, I have a question for Commissioner Gorham.
Sure.
Yes, was it your initial contemplation that if we denied this particular application for 2014, before the process was clarified, that he would have the ability to apply for 2015 and perhaps begin driving upon approval in early 2015.
Mr. Hensley explained that doesn't work like an alcohol permit. It's an application for
Right.
the permit, and if it is denied, there's a year's suspension on it based on the denial.
Maybe I should be more direct. Was there contemplation for him not to have to wait a whole year out from today, that he would be able to be considered prior to?
I think that we're limited by the regulation itself, based upon a denial, that it's a 12-month denial.
I'm just trying to gauge if there's any flexibility to not have to wait a whole year.
I think the question is Sergeant, the question is, if we wanted to limit it to 6 months or 3 months or a year and a half or 2 years, do we have the discretion to do that?
Not to my knowledge, according to the code specifies 12 months from the denial date. But that's up to your board.
But that's
Thank
a
you.
code.
You concur, Ms. Dance?
Yes, I would ask Mr. Hensley if he concurs.
I do concur. I don't believe there's a way around that.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from the board? Call the question. Motion carries 3-5-0. Thank you. This takes us to item number 2. Mr. Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our second item is one of those hearings that was continued
No,
from September 9th.
that's a new one.
And again, for the benefit of the applicant, I'm Sam Hensley Jr., representing the Business License Division. This is a hearing on Joseph Pilgrim and JP Home Maintenance, LLC. And as you may recall, Mr. Chairman, we were here on a denial of an application for an occupation tax certificate, which is also known as a business registration certificate, or more informally, a business license, for Mr. Pilgrim and JP Home Maintenance, which is located at 2701 Fern Valley Road, Marietta 30066. Now, in Mr. Pilgrim's application for this business license, he disclosed 2 criminal convictions that were felonies or crimes of moral turpitude. And under the Cobb Code Section 7845A, it states that an application for a business registration certificate may be denied, suspended, or revoked only for due cause, defined in subsection C, and only after a hearing before this board. So again, that is why we are directly in front of the Board of Commissioners. A denial has to come from this board for an application for a business registration certificate. And 7845C provides that due cause will include such things as violating any federal or state law which is a felony or which involves moral turpitude. Mr. Pilgrim disclosed and committed the offenses of making terroristic threats and also the burning of woodlands. So in light of these offenses, the Business License Division felt it was not appropriate to grant the license and brought it before this board for your review. Since this is a due cause hearing, Mr. Chairman, I am happy to read the charges and specifications into the record if the applicant so chooses. Again, the standards that the board will be using is determining if there is that due cause for denying this application, and the procedures that we follow are the same as we would under an alcohol license under 6-147B. This is not a mandatory denial, and you can consider any mitigating or aggravating circumstances in reviewing this application. And those are the broad standards that we operate under when we have this type of due cause hearing on a business license application. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to swear in the witnesses, and I'll also be happy to read the charges and specs into the record if the applicant so chooses.
Please.
Is Mr. Pilgrim here? Yeah. If you'd come forward. If you'll be testifying in this hearing or believe you'll be testifying, you can stop right there. Would you stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this proceeding shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say, I do. Thank you very much. Do you waive the reading of the charges and specifications into record? Thank you, sir. If you'll have a seat, we'll ask Ms. Richardson to come forward, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you give us your full name, please?
I'm Sandra Richardson, manager of the Cobb County Business License Division.
And briefly, what are your responsibilities as the manager of that division?
It's to collect the occupation tax of the businesses in Cobb County, both regulated and unregulated, and to oversee the approval of applications.
And are you familiar with Mr. Joseph Pilgrim, who is the subject of our hearing here today?
Yes, sir.
And how are you familiar with him?
He applied for a home maintenance and repair. He made application for a home maintenance and repair business.
And in reviewing that application and/or talking to Mr. Pilgrim, what did you discover?
Question number 18 on the back of the application is, have you, the applicant, or anyone having any ownership of this business ever violated, been arrested, or convicted of any federal or state law, or any ordinance or resolution regulating any business? He answered yes, and then he listed two citations that he had: terroristic threats and burning of woodlands, and he was convicted on both of those.
And those were felony charges, is that correct?
That's my understanding. They're both felonies.
Were you familiar with the circumstances surrounding those convictions?
I was not familiar with them, of course. At the time, I was just reading what was on the application. So I called Mr. Pilgrim to find out how long ago these violations had occurred. He had listed that he got 7 years probation on the terroristic threats, which was out of Cherokee County. He told me on the phone that was his conviction was in 2006, and that he was still on probation for that one. And then as to the burning of woodlands, he got 5 years on that one out of Dawson County, and that was 2009, and his probation was completed on that one.
Okay. But he was honest and forthcoming about those convictions in his history.
He was honest on his application as well as on the telephone with me.
Okay. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Pilgrim, do you have any questions for this witness?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure Mr. Pilgrim would be happy to come forward and discuss the circumstances of those offenses.
Thank you. Mr. Pilgrim, please.
Just hang on to him and then you're good.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. I have, as I was here last month, and
Sir, let me remind you, okay, don't assume anything you may have said last month is being carried forward. It's important that you literally start from the beginning, and because two of the commissioners that are here weren't here last time. So I'd like you to just be recognized that we're basically doing a do-over, so we're starting from scratch.
Okay.
So
All right, thank you.
just totally disregard the fact that you were here 30 days ago in terms of presenting your story, and let's go from there. I just want to make sure you understood it. We need to do that.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm here for the board to plead my case about getting my business license. I do acknowledge the fact that I did commit 2 felonies in 2006 and 2009. I feel that I have paid my dues for those felonies, and that I would like to move on with my life and make changes for the better and serve the community as a business owner in Cobb County. Really, I don't have I'm not going to try to stand here and try to justify anything to excuse what I've done. I did what I did. I accept responsibility for that. It's not the county's obligation to grant me anything. I mean, I did commit the crimes, and it's up to me to pay the penalty for that. But I am pleading with the county to basically give me another chance to make better of myself and serve this community. And I wanted to point out that the 2 crimes involved occurred outdoors, and my business would be in people's houses, which my 2 charges was not inside anybody's residence. The burning of woodlands happened in an undeveloped wooded area. It was basically just leaves and undergrowth. At no time were any structures threatened. And the terroristic threats or terroristic acts is, I did fight that in court. I took it to a jury trial and lost. I mean, I've tried to present my case to them, and the Cherokee County won that one. But like I said, I'm not trying to make any excuses for my actions. I'm just asking the board to consider my application.
Thank you, sir. Do you have any witnesses you'd like to bring forward?
I have one, yes, Jack Wright here. He's a neighbor of mine, and I have done some work for him, and I've known him for about 20, 30 years.
This would be the time for him to come forward, and for you to ask him any questions that you have for him, and then he'll be crossed by Mr. Hensley. Mr. Hensley, you have a comment?
Was this an opening statement, or was this his testimony that I can cross-examine?
I'm going to consider it opening, and then we'll come back to testimony.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do have some certificates, some anger management that were requested by Commissioner Burrell. I do have some copies of those. I'd like to distribute those.
I have reviewed those, and I have no objection.
Okay, so if you would hand them to the clerk, that'd be great. Thank you. So if you would have your neighbor come forward. Yeah, Mr. Hensley will give you the mic. And Mr. Pilgrim, and y'all just need to be able to, sir, if you come forward and have a stand up here, and Mr. Pilgrim, you could ask him questions that he can answer for you.
This is really simple. I just wanted to ask.
Could you speak up, please? I'm hard of hearing.
Excuse me, just a minute, please. Go ahead. Thank you.
This is Jack Wright. He's a neighbor of mine, and I just basically would ask that he would give the Board of Commissioners just a character statement regarding myself, my character, and my quality of work.
Well, again, as Joey stated, my name is Jack Wright. I'm a citizen of Cobb County, have been for about 65 years. And of the 65 years that I've been in Cobb County, I've been acquainted with Joey and his parents. He's an only child. His father recently passed away this past year. This year, in fact, I think it was maybe in February. And Joey has some big shoes to fill. Like you say, he's got to help his mom, and he has proven himself to be responsive in every respect that I can think of. I've known Joey personally, I guess, for 30 or more years. I know him to be a non-user of drugs and alcohol. He does not drink. He does not use drugs. I've never seen him, like you say, any character flaws. Me personally, I haven't. He's a person of high morals. He goes to church. He's a good worker. I've hired him to do work for me. He's a graduate of Southern Tech Engineering School. He is a licensed electrical engineer, and he has a good record as far as I know. And all my acquaintances with him, except these two little skirmishes that he's had outside the county. I think he's paid his debt to society in those cases, and he's wanting to step forward and, like you say, and get started in business where he can provide some financial support for his mother, who is alone now at this time. And I could not say anything bad about Joey's moral character or anything about him if I wanted to. I'd have to make it up.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Pilgrim, any other questions for this gentleman?
No, sir.
Thank you.
That's it.
Mr. Hensley, do you have any questions for the gentleman?
Briefly, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your comments, Mr. Wright.
Yes, sir.
And all I wanted to ask you was, did you witness either one of these two incidents that were the basis of his felony conviction?
No, I did not. I know one, and this is hearsay information.
Okay, I don't want to hear say. I just wanted to know if you
it's
saw
to
them.
what the two involved. One was,
That's okay. If you didn't witness them, that's all I needed
No,
to know.
no,
Okay.
no.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Wright? Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Pilgrim, this is your only witness today? Okay, we'd like for you to come forward as a witness for Mr. Hensley, please.
Mr. Pilgrim, did you have any other testimony you wanted to offer in addition to what you've already stated?
Just the fact that the trying to find a job with 2 felony convictions on your record in anywhere, not just Cobb County, is virtually impossible. I mean, if I do get a job, it's just the luck of the draw that a company is willing to overlook certain things. But I do want to work. I want, legally want to work, either at a job or for myself. Because recidivism in the prison, anything is running high. People that don't have jobs, for the most part, go back. And I do not want to be one of those. So making an income is my way of bettering myself and staying out of trouble and staying out of prison.
Thank you.
That's the only thing I have to add.
Thank you.
Let me begin with that then, Mr. Pilgrim. Is it correct that you have a degree in electrical engineering?
I have a degree in electrical engineering technology, and I have an EIT, which is engineering training certification through the state.
Have you ever been licensed as an electrician or any job similar to
I have had an electrical contractor's license. Got it in 2003. It lapsed in 2010 due to my incarceration.
And have you given any thought to trying to renew that license?
I had thought about it. I'm not going to at this time.
Okay. So tell me about the nature of your business that you're seeking to have a license for today.
It's basically handyman work, just replacing broken fixtures, faulty faucets, door hinges, door locks, just minor things that do not require a licensed contractor.
Okay.
I can't do any like remodels or anything that would require adding new wiring or new plumbing. I could only work on that would require a licensed contractor. I can't do anything that would do that.
But this would, as you said earlier, be work that would require you to be on people's property or in their homes?
Yes.
Okay. Tell me, sir, please, about, number one, the offense of terroristic threats. Exactly what happened in that case?
Well, I had a running dispute with some neighbors that lived across the street. Just little thing. Seemed like every week they were calling the police about something, and the police would come over, talk to me, and then it'd be done with, and nothing would ever happen. It's just like they saw somebody shining lights in their windows, and they would say, "I think it's the guy across the street," which was me, and it wasn't. And on the day in question, on April 24th, 2005, I was accused of throwing a rock with a distance of about 300 to 400 yards and striking a parked car. And I don't know of any professional sports person, baseball, football, otherwise, that can throw anything quite that far. That's 900 to 1,200 feet, almost a quarter of a mile.
I assume that was your testimony, that it was that long of a throw.
Well, that's what was said, and that was what was brought up in court. That was the distance that the attorneys argued in court.
Okay.
And striking a car did, I would say, roughly $250, $500 damage. It was just a ding on a fender. The car was not moving, and to the best of my knowledge, not even running. The person in the car had stopped and was talking to the neighbor across the street that I had the dispute with. And the police come out and talked to me, and I told them that I had no knowledge of any of that. And I stood by that story all the way to the jury trial.
So it was your contention you did not throw a rock at all?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but you were convicted of that
Yes, sir.
offense?
I was placed on 7 years probation under first offender. The burning of woodlands violated the first offender, and I was resentenced to 5 additional years probation.
And tell me about the burning of woodlands case. What happened in that situation?
Well, I had called Dawson, Georgia Forestry. I had lived in Dawson County. It was February. It wasn't out of burn season, but it was particularly dry that time of year, and it was a red flag, no burn day. So I called to get a burn permit and was turned down. So I would decide. It irritated me that they didn't give me the burn permit, so I went out in the woods away from any dwelling and just intentionally set a brush fire.
And intentionally set the fire, that was not for the purpose of just burning the underbrush.
No,
that was out of spite, was it not?
It was out of spite, I do agree.
Did that lead to your having to take these anger management courses while you were in prison?
Yes, it did.
Okay. So you understand, sir, I am sure.
The seriousness.
The seriousness. You've repeatedly said there were no structures around, but as I'm sure you've seen in the news, these wildfires that have occurred in the last several months and years out west, how quickly those can spread.
Yes, sir. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to make excuses for my actions, but the undergrowth and vegetation in California is quite different than Georgia.
I understand that, but you intentionally set a fire in
yes,
spite.
I do. And I am aware of the conditions out west.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Does the board have any questions of Mr. Pilgrim?
I have a couple.
Commissioner Burrow?
Mr. Pilgrim, you're still on probation for the 2006 conviction of the terroristic threats?
Yes, ma'am. I will be until September 8th, 2016.
Okay, so you still have a couple years almost. And the brush fire, was it on private property or on the side of the road in the right of way, or?
I'm not sure whose property it was. It might have even been the Corps of Engineers because it was near Lake Lanier. It was either private property or Corps of Engineer property. I'm not sure. But it wasn't my property. It was all undeveloped woodlands.
Okay.
Roughly.
But you don't know if anyone owned it?
No, I don't. It was roughly, the fire was contained to about 3 acres.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Kipp?
Yes, can you speak to your efforts, please, to seek employment?
As to where I'm going?
Where, can you speak to the efforts that you've made to try to find a job?
I've gone everywhere. I've not tried to stay within my scope of training. I've even tried to get on with fast food, retail, anything I can get to make a living. I have been turned down by Walmart, Domino's, Papa John's, Publix grocery store, and numerous other places. They've stated that it's a liability issue, and I've been working with the Department of Labor on Big Shanty Road to try to get their resources, and they say I do qualify for federal bonding, which covers anything that would happen to a company under my employment if it's related to me. And they're not, it's like they don't even want to hear it.
Okay.
So this trying to get my business license is an alternative that I come up with. I know I'm good at fixing and repairing things, and I do have an electrical knowledge, and I thought this would be an alternative to employment.
Okay. I also have another question with respect to the incident with the woodlands.
Yes, ma'am.
You stated that you went into the woods because you were upset. I think the word you used was irritated.
Right. It irritated me. Because I wanted to have. It was a very childish thing to do.
Okay.
So I'll show you type of thing, and I'm 52 years old now. That wasn't At the time, I was 47, and I do acknowledge that that's not the way somebody 47 should be conducting themselves. That's something teenagers or kids do, so I admit that, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
And I do believe I paid my punishment for that. I mean, like I said, I'm not making excuses or trying to pass the blame to anybody else, but I did do time in the Georgia Department of Corrections system, and that's not a very fun place to be.
I can imagine. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Commissioner Ott?
Mr. Pilgrim, you provided to the board, I believe it's 5 certificates here on various anger management courses. What did you learn?
To come up with alternatives to acting out, to demonstrating anger, to demonstrating resentment. Basically constructive thinking instead of destructive thinking. To, before I put a plan into action, to give everything considerable consideration, not just impulsively act on something. Like somebody does something and it irritates me, to just jump out and retaliate right away, to think from their point of view, try to put myself in their perspective, think things out, evaluate the severity of the problem. Most of the time it's nothing. It's just a little irritant. It's something I can overlook. It basically are the ways to channel my emotions away from anger into other thoughts.
Any other questions for Mr. Pilgrim? Do you have any final thoughts, sir? Do you like to present to us?
No, sir. I think that pretty much said it all.
Thank you, sir. If you could
I
have a
just
seat.
plead with you to give this careful consideration.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I do have one more question
Sure.
before I make a motion. These certificates, these classes were all taken while you were
They
incarcerated?
were all at Hayes State Prison, yes, ma'am.
For which offense? For which felony?
For the burning of woodlands.
Burning of woodlands, okay.
Is that it?
Mhm.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Hensley, do you have any final thoughts?
I think the testimony speaks for itself, Mr. Chairman. I
Thank-
have no further comment.
Thank you. Then we will ask for Commissioner Burrow to lead us in our conversation.
Thank you. To me, this is very serious. Two felonies, and I also have an issue that where you're still on probation till 2016 for one of the felonies, and I can't, in good conscience, approve a business license where you will be going into people's homes. I know you've apologized and you're trying to, I guess, get back on the right track and amend your life, but I can't in good conscience allow you to do that, to go into people's homes, to be a repair person with this still on your record and still on probation. So I would make a motion to deny the business license for Mr. Pilgrim.
Is there a second to that motion? I'll second the motion for conversation. Is there any conversation?
I have comments.
Yes, sir.
I respectfully disagree. I think that the court system has 2 options in dealing with felony convictions. One is incarceration, which is what is done with dangerous criminals or people that are a threat to society. In this particular case, after serving time, Mr. Pilgrim is now on probation because the courts have deemed him not a threat to society. And I agree with his assertion that he has paid his debt for violating the law. He has been in prison. He is on probation. Clearly, it has had an impact on his life. He understands that impact. I am impressed by the fact that he has taken responsibility for his actions. No excuses. We did not hear him stand up here and say that, you know, this happened or that happened, and, you know, it really didn't happen the way that he just said it happened. So I respectfully disagree, and I would support granting the business license.
Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, let me turn my microphone on. I would like to further add that, but for this gentleman's honesty, we would not be hearing this matter today. I understand that someone has to fill out the application and provide their criminal record, but with the type of work that he's pursuing, he certainly could have tried to do this work under the table. He didn't have to come and ask for a license, and there are many people who try to do petty types of labor that do it for cash and have no accountability for paying taxes or being recognized for that work legally. I think that that's a sobering action for him to want to move forward in the right way, in the honest way, and not just become a working citizen, but a tax-paying working citizen at that. And that gives me reason for pause that he's moving in the right direction. And I would like to support the granting of the application.
Thank you. Any other comments? Call a question. Motion. I second it. Motion carries 1-4 with Commissioner Burrow in the affirmative, no vote in the negative. So we have basically the motion brought forward was to deny the application. That motion has failed. So we find ourselves with a gentleman without an application unless there's another motion.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to grant the business license to Mr. Pilgrim under the normal conditions that business licenses are granted, with the understanding to Mr. Pilgrim, or the charge to Mr. Pilgrim, that as you move forward in your new career, that you stay on the right side of the law. We don't want to see you back in here, and that'll be my motion.
Okay, is there a second? There's a second. Before we vote, I wanted to correct my vote from the last one. I should have voted with yes in an affirmative with that vote, so it would have been a 2-3 vote, just for the record. And as it relates to the motion to deny, I should have voted yes with 2-3 vote. Can I change that at this point?
If the board agrees for you to
Is the
change
board
your vote.
okay with that? The board's okay with that. So the record would show that I voted in the affirmative for the motion to deny the application, and that vote was 2-3 with Commissioners Cupid, Gorham, and Ott in opposition. The second vote, the vote before us now, is to grant the license by Commissioner Ott, subject to all normal circumstances surrounding the application. It has been seconded by Commissioner Gorham. And is there any comments from the board? Call the question. That motion carries 4-1 with Commissioner Burrow in voting no. Thank you. So we're going to go to agenda item number 3. Mr. Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the second of the holdover hearings that we had from September 9th. And again, for the benefit of the applicant, I'm Sam Hensley, Jr., representing the Business License Division of Cobb County. And we are here today regarding an application for an alcohol work permit for Kristen Broadway while working at Taco Mac at 600 Chastain Road, Suite 310, Kennesaw, Georgia, 30144. Is Ms. Broadway here? She is in attendance, Mr. Chairman, and this application was initially denied as required by the Business License Division pursuant to the findings of the Cobb Police Department Regulatory Services and Permits Units due to the fact that there were 2 DUIs within the last 5 years on her criminal record, 2012 and April of 2014. This violates Code Section 6-206 and 6-207 of the Cobb County Alcohol Code. Now, the Cobb Board of Commissioners, the License Review Board rather, voted to approve this work permit on June the 5th of 2014 by a vote of 3-1, and then the District Commissioner asked that this be pulled from the consent agenda for review by this board due to the circumstances of this case. So again, it is a situation of 2 DUIs within the past 5 years of the application. And with that, I will be happy to swear in the witnesses and begin our case.
Thank you.
If the applicant can come forward and any witnesses that you have, please. If you'll be testifying in this hearing or believe that you'll be testifying, would you stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this proceeding shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say I do. Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like to call Sergeant Bonnie Smith, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Hello again.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. Could you reintroduce yourself for the purpose of this hearing?
Yes, Bonnie Smith, Cobb County Police Department, Permits Regulatory Services.
And tell me again how long you've held that position?
Almost 5 years.
Okay. And is it part of your responsibility to review applications for alcohol work permits?
It is.
And in the course of your duties, did you have an opportunity to review the application by Kristen Broadway for an alcohol work permit?
I did. She made an application in our office September 24th, 2013.
Okay. And in reviewing that application, what did you find?
The application itself on the back where it asked to list any time you've ever been arrested, there was one DUI conviction that she listed for Cobb County, and she listed the offense date of 1/22/2012. At that time, looking at that, it does not indicate that she would be disqualified. We processed the application as normal. After taking the money, running the criminal history, we determined at that time that she had a pending second DUI. And at that time, we were not able to make a decision whether to approve or deny the application until we get an adjudication in court and its final disposition. We had a conversation with her and explained that situation to her. And in April of 2014, she came back with a final disposition from court showing that she was again convicted on the second DUI, which now makes her ineligible for the permit. At that time, we denied her alcohol service permit for Taco Mac.
Would you consider her to have been truthful on her application in listing only the conviction that she had for the first DUI?
No, it's in gray, bold, underlined, and emphasized highly on the top list any time that you have ever been arrested, and I have one arrest listed.
Very good. That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ms. Broadway, do you have any questions from the Sergeant? No, sir? No, ma'am? You don't? No. Okay, thank you. Mr. Hensley?
That's
Do we
all
have
I
any
have,
questions for the
unless the
Sergeant
board.
as a board? Thank you.
That's the only witness I have.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Broadway, you can come make an opening statement and then present any witnesses you have, recognizing you'll be called as a witness as well, okay? So if you would make any opening statements you have.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman and Board of Commissioners of the Board. My name is Kristen Broadway, and I would like to thank you for hearing my case this morning. Currently, I am employed at Taco Mac of Kennesaw, it's T-Mac now, formerly Taco Mac. I've been working there since January of 2011. I started out as a hostess, worked my way up and served for a couple of years. And when I was denied my liquor permit, of September 2013, I moved into the kitchen. So I've been working hourly there the last year. I had the option of transferring to Cherokee County, but I felt that at the time that I needed to be around a support system. I have family 300 miles away. I'm up here by myself. And this is the people that have known me the last 4 years. And I would like to be approved for the liquor permit so I can stay with my support system that I've had. I acknowledge the 2 DUIs that I've had. I felt that when I moved into the back of house in the kitchen, it not only affected money paid out into the government for probation and being convicted and stuff, but it affected my income. I make about half of what I was making prior when I had the liquor permit and was serving. But I felt that it has been very humbling. Not only that I'm on probation and all that, but I have lost so many opportunities because of these 2 DUIs. I was in college, at Coles College of Business at Kennesaw State. I have less than 30 hours left. I'm an accounting major. I had to withdraw from school for the last year to finance-wise to get the probation requirements done, and I just asked that I could be granted the liquor permit because I need money to be able to support myself through the rest of school that I have, and like I said, I would like to stay with people that have known me and I do feel accountable towards. I just hope that you can consider approving that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any witnesses you'd like to bring forward?
Yes, sir. It's my general manager.
If you would, bring him forward at this point, please. Yes, sir. Please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Good
My
morning.
name is Kurt Hummel. I'm the General Manager of the Taco Mac or T-Mac in Kennesaw, 600 Chastain Road, Kennesaw, Georgia,
Thank
Suite
you.
310.
Thank you. Ms. Broadway, do you have any questions for this gentleman?
Yes. Have you ever felt that I have behaved irresponsibly at work?
No, I do not.
And do you feel that you have to watch me if I violate any work policies of the company or county law regarding alcohol sales and all that?
No, I don't. There's been a couple of examples where we've had you yourself personally bring it to the attention of the management team that there was someone in question. There's been specifically a time someone was trying to use someone else's ID in order to order alcohol, and people using fake IDs. Those are specific examples that involved Kristen prior to her losing of her liquor permit. May I ask one question?
Sure.
Hearing a testimony a few moments ago, not in following the same case, there was a point brought up about someone being eligible for a permit a year after their suspension or their denial of a permit. Is that applicable in liquor permit cases?
Mr. Hensley?
If she's denied today by this board, she would be on the same standard, 12 months to apply.
Thank you.
12 months from today, not from the original denial?
That's my understanding.
Okay, 12 months from today, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. If I might add, as Kristen mentioned, she's been employed at our restaurant for 4 years, 3 years, better part of 3 years. And I've had the opportunity, I was one of the managers that first interviewed her coming on. We have very strict standards as a company to make sure that we're responsible for the service of alcohol. I myself, who conduct orientations with new staff members, do the best we can to impress the importance upon responsible vending and making sure that we're serving in a responsible manner to anybody that is of age. We have several systems in place to try to try to demonstrate our responsibility with serving of alcohol. As I mentioned a moment ago, there have been several instances where Kristen has brought forth someone that has not or didn't meet the requirements and brought it to management's attention right away. I think in this forum, I understand that you're questioning yourself if this person is responsible due to the past behaviors that she's demonstrated. That's a very good question. I myself am confident that she'd adhere to that, and I don't think that she's a risk to my business or to the community with serving somebody that is not of age or at least has the credentials to be served an alcoholic beverage, meaning they don't have ID for proof of age. I'm very confident that she would do that. I know that she mentioned her sacrifice, and I think it's understandable, but she did it for good reason. She did it because she identified that she had a problem. She wanted to change herself. And as she admitted, she's been in the heart of the house for well over a year because she didn't have an alcohol permit to serve, therefore cutting her income substantially. Okay, she did that for reasons of her own, but as a person who manages her, I'm quite proud the decision she made because of the reason she wanted to be around other people to help her with this sort of thing. And to be in an environment, a culture that will help someone better themselves is, I think, something very special. Now, no question that she's made some mistakes, but I hope she's learned from it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have any other questions?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Hensley, do you have any questions for Mr. Humbles?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, give me your name one more time.
My name is Kurt Eric Hummel.
Hummel, Mr. Hummel. How long has Ms. Broadway worked for you?
She would know the exact date. I don't, 2011, yeah.
Okay. Now, you've mentioned a support system. What specifically do you mean when you say this is a supportive environment, a supportive culture for her in your business?
Well, what I mean specifically by that is friends that want to see her be successful, want to see her be able to not indulge herself in activities that could get herself into trouble, legal trouble, driving after she's been drinking, that sort of thing. People that go to counseling, we don't have a lot, we have quite a few. We have one fellow behind in our kitchen that's a sponsor for Alcoholics Anonymous. He's taken under his wing a couple other people that have had similar situations in their life where they're trying to change their behaviors and not indulge in those type of activities.
Okay. Were either one of these DUIs the result of drinking at Taco Mac? I always refer to it as Taco Mac. I didn't even know you'd changed the name. Either while working or off duty?
Well, we do not allow any of our staff to drink while they're working. It's a terminable offense on the first offense. To speak of if she was drinking after work on premises, I believe she mentioned last month that she had been. I was unaware of that until now. We do have a policy in place where it's a 2-drink maximum. So if staff are off work and out of uniform, would like to get something to eat or a beer, they may do so, but they cannot have any more than 2 beers or 2 drinks.
Okay. So she did drink on your premises without your knowledge after having these DUIs. Is that what you're telling me?
No, sir. I'm not validating that. Can you repeat the question just so that I'm clear?
When were you informed that she had been drinking on your premises?
Well,
when did you come to that knowledge?
Last month, but I would need clarification from her if she had been drinking at the restaurant. I believe in memory from last testimony that she said she had a beer, but she would have to clarify that.
Okay.
When did it come to my knowledge? Last month.
Okay. What is your restaurant's policy on carding people and serving alcohol?
Carding people every time, if anyone.
Regardless of age?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what kind of training do you give your employees regarding the service of alcohol?
Well, at orientation, we discuss it. It's about a 2-hour orientation, and probably about, maybe 30 minutes of my orientation is involved with impressing upon them. We have several systems in place. We have any new managers, and as our company is growing, and we are a training store, we have a lot of new managers coming through. Part of the new managers' homework is to visit various TMACs in the company and to perform secret shops. They go in anonymously to make sure that certain points of service are being adhered to or hit, so to speak. One of those is the ID policy, and they're specifically going in there amongst other points, but ordering an alcoholic beverage with the intention to make sure that the staff member is asking for ID. We have secret shoppers, which are guests that are paid to come in and shop our business with criteria of giving us all sorts of feedback in terms of service, quality of food and all that sort of thing, and to make sure that staff members are asking for ID. In addition to that, we also subcontract a company by the name of the Training Institute that come in randomly. They send in underage patrons that are sent in for one reason alone, and that is to sit down and order an alcoholic beverage. They brandish an ID that is underage, and to see whether the staff member IDs or not.
Well, you anticipated my next question. I wondered if you had a secret shopper program in place. Do you know if Ms. Broadway ever passed or did not pass such an inspection or such a secret shopper compliance check?
It is not convenient amnesia, but I cannot recall specifically if she has or has not. I do recall instances where she has caught IDs that were not of that person, or IDs that have been tampered with, that she has brought to our attention for us to go follow up with.
Okay. Are you the license holder for alcohol sales for this particular TMAC?
I am for Canton location, not for the Kennesaw location.
Okay. And you are aware that that establishment could be subject to a suspension or revocation of its alcohol license if any employee serves alcohol to an underage or intoxicated person?
Yes, sir. That is why we stress so much, and we try to make it a very important part of our training that it's a must.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any questions to the board for Mr. Hummel?
Yes, Chairman, I have a
Commissioner Cube.
question. Yes. Okay. The permitting process for employees that serve alcohol, does it only consist of checking requirements to see if someone meets those requirements to consume alcohol, or does it also consist of them using judgment to assess whether or not someone is intoxicated? Or
Are you talking about his store policy or our
his store
policy?
policy.
Okay.
Well, we do offer a training class, training in, the acronym is TIPS, but what it essentially is being able to spot behaviors, cues, physical cues, emotional cues sometimes, how quickly or what the effects of alcohol could have on one person. In addition to that, we also train staff to watch how quickly people are drinking. It's my personal policy that I want to be notified as quickly as possible if it looks like someone's drinking more than 2 drinks per hour. As we don't do breathalyzers or anything like that, we want to make sure that we're keeping tabs on our guests. We are, in one message that I clearly send during my orientations is our establishment is not a place for people to, as a destination for people to come and get completely smashed. We want to be responsible. I think that's the only way to sustain, a viable place in our community.
Okay. And I would assume all employees that serve alcohol have received that training.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Pardon me. The TIPS training is offered to our lates, our closers, our certified training people, managers, and bartenders.
Okay.
Not every single staff member receives that training, but they do receive the orientation, whether they're going to be serving alcohol or not, as part of the culture that we have created in our store. If you're working in the heart of house as a dishwasher, you'll receive the same sort of training so that everyone understands it as part of our culture.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question. Are you the general manager at Chastain and Canton?
No, ma'am. I was the general manager in Canton. I took a regional manager position in the interim within Taco Mac for a period of 6 months before begging to come back to work at the store level in Kennesaw.
Kennesaw, okay. But you're not the licensee for the alcohol permit in Kennesaw, but you are still in Canton?
I believe I am in Canton.
Okay. But you're the general manager at the Chastain store in
Yes, ma'am. I am the
Kennesaw.
general manager at Kennesaw.
And you've worked with Kristen for the last 3 years? that
Yes,
she's
more
been there.
or less. I was in Kennesaw, moved and ran the Canton store for a short time, worked the regional manager position for some time, which that regional manager position, Kennesaw was one of my restaurants that I oversaw. So, in a direct or indirect capacity, better part of 3 years.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Hummel? Thank you, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you. Ms. Broadway, at this point, if you have any concluding comments you'd like to present to us, this would be your opportunity.
And I'll be able to cross-examine her, will I not?
Yes.
Thank you.
Like you said before, we have a lot of strict policies at our T-Max store. I remember a GM prior to him being at our store, she ingrained that into us. ID everybody, does not matter what they look like, the expiration date. I have turned down people that were 80 years old just because they had an expired ID. And, I've caught, people getting mad over it, but I've always been very careful of that. My job was always very important to me. That is my income. I have always valued it. Prior to the 2 DUIs and having the second DUI, it's something, I guess, like maybe a growing up thing that I just didn't realize, that if you mess up, you're going to have some consequences that you're going to have to pay for. And I know that they're very close together. They're only a couple of years apart. But, this has taken over my early 20s. Like I said, I was in school, and I want to go back. I want to finish. I want to move on with my life and put this behind me. And I would just like to ask for that.
Thank you. Mr. Hensley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure we would all like to hear about the circumstances of your 2 DUIs. Tell us what happened first in the one that occurred in 2012.
The first one I received, there used to be a pizzeria called Zuka's that was on Chastain Road as well. I had ate there by myself. My boyfriend was a bartender there at the time. I drank a Guinness beer, had dinner. There was an apartment complex about right next to it. It's about, when you turn out to the right on Busby, it's about 50 yards and you would take a ride to the apartment complex. I had a friend that was having a birthday, went there. I remember I didn't know very many people there, and I felt very uncomfortable. I had only a couple of beers there, so there was probably a maximum of four drinks in a matter of 5 hours. And I drove back to the Zuka's Pizzeria. I was going to go home with my boyfriend. He was getting off work. And as I was pulling left into the parking lot, a police officer had another car pulled over, and they waved me down because I didn't have my headlights on. And when I had left, I was following behind a friend of mine and just didn't turn back on. I usually leave them on at night and they turn off automatically. Just didn't.
But it was dark at the time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I fully acknowledge I didn't even try to fight that first DUI. I was kind of understanding that, I did wrong, and that's fine. I'll take the conviction. The second DUI that I received, I was working, and there was a couple of friends of mine that had, or coworkers of mine.
Working at Taco Mac?
Yes, sir. They had got off prior to me, and I got off probably about an hour and a half later, and sat down, and they were about to leave, and this was in May. This was right after my finals were done. This was my first semester I had in the Coles College, and I sat down and I had a beer, left and followed them, and there was an officer in the video. He starts following me and everything, and I didn't completely stop at a stop sign. I was following somebody. They hurried in a rush and, whatever. So I'm assuming the reason why that he arrested me for the second DUI was he knew I had a first DUI. We had a conversation about it. Obviously, I look habitual, and so I got arrested, and about a year later, I was convicted. Went through the process, and so.
Were you still on probation when you got the second DUI?
No, sir. I was off probation.
Okay. But you had been drinking on your work premises even though you were not on duty at the time?
No, I was off work.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any alcohol counseling or evaluation as a condition of your probation that you were on?
Yes, I had 36 hours. It took me about 3 months to complete. I've had defensive driving class I took, and a Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Okay. So I assume you're aware of the consequences of serving alcohol to an underage person, an intoxicated person.
Yes, sir.
And yet, apparently, the consequences of your first DUI didn't really take root as much as they should have.
I will say that. I will say it was a slap on the wrist. It was kind of, it wasn't that I didn't learn my lesson. Like I said, I had a beer after work, and, you know, as I think everybody kind of assumes, if you drink a beer, you're okay to drive because you'll blow a .08. And obviously that wasn't the case. So, you know, after that had happened, I mean, that's made me be, I don't want to drink anymore because this is just going to cause me all these problems. Even for something that I thought I was being responsible over, then it's just not worth it.
Do you drink anymore?
No.
When's the last time you had an alcoholic
I
beverage?
had an alcoholic beverage on my birthday, and I had a very long conversation with my father about it, and
When was your birthday?
February 27th of this year.
Okay. What can you tell this board that will assure them, if at all, that despite these problems you've had in your personal life, you will not be tempted as the last line of defense for somebody getting alcohol that shouldn't get alcohol, that you won't be tempted to look the other way? Somebody's having a good time, they want to have that one beer, and they shouldn't. They're having a party. What can you tell them that's going to assure them, despite these recent DUIs, that you'll be reliable in that job?
Well, prior even to the DUIs, I have done that numerous times where the general manager that was prior to Kurt, she had a kind of a 6-drink rule. If they've reached 6 drinks, you let me know, and I'll make a judgment call on it. I was always very, very scared of breaking the rules, and I know that breaking the law, it appears that I don't adhere to the rules.
You weren't concerned about that,
right? But I mean, I was always scared out of my mind to serve underage, and this whole, I mean, I've heard some crazy stories of sting operations of police officers coming in, and I mean, you get arrested. I mean, I don't know if it's a felony or not. I just don't even want to know because I ID'd every single time, and if anybody has ever, you know, I kind of wonder if they're a little too intoxicated. I've called them cabs, made sure that they had a ride, and like I said, I've always brought it to my manager's attention if I felt that they were almost overserved. Like I've never played around with that. So.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, and I have no further statement regarding that.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Anyone in the board have any questions for Ms. Broadway?
I have one.
Yeah, sure.
I believe Sergeant Smith testified that you were not truthful on your application the first time?
Right.
And you didn't disclose the second DUI?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us why? And
I had talked to my attorney and I talked, you know, like around, and everybody was like, well, you know, if it's pending, it's probably not there and it doesn't matter. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't know that a second DUI charge you wouldn't be able to get the liquor permit. And that's the only, I mean, I apologize so much for that. I honestly, it wasn't that I was trying to be untruthful necessarily, but I look back at that now and that was a very dumb decision to make, and I'm sorry.
well, it's, to me, that's very serious to not be truthful on the application. And the reason it was automatically denied was because of the 2 convictions within a 5-year period. And these actually occurred in less than 2 years between
Yes.
the first one and the second.
Right. It was about 1.5 years, yes.
So I don't have any other questions. but-
Okay.
May I ask a follow-up to that, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
Very quickly, which is a very good point that the Commissioner has brought up. This is your original application that you filed with the Business License Division in the Police Department. Can you tell me what it says at the very top of that page, please, ma'am?
List any time that you have ever been arrested.
And arrested is bolded and underlined, correct?
Correct.
And can you read, starting right here, this portion of that paragraph at the bottom?
I have read and understood that any falsehood or have to submit in this application is a felony and render me ineligible to serve alcoholic beverages, operate a vehicle for hire, or be employed by a pawn shop in this county.
That's good enough. Thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms.?
Yes, I have one question,
Yes, ma'am.
Chairman. For the second DUI arrest, you stated that you had one beer,
Yes, ma'am.
and that resulted in a DUI? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Broadway? Thank you, Ms. Broadway. Commissioner Burley, would you lead our conversation, please?
Sure. I have a question for Ms. Richardson, or maybe Attorney Hensley. I'm not sure.
She's been sworn in. She can come
I
forward,
know.
and it's better if she testifies rather than me.
If this is granted today, will the permit expire the end of this year and then another renewal start in January? Or does it go calendar year or year from today?
This is actually the Permits and Regulatory Office question. I
Oh,
think
Bonnie.
Bonnie Smith could probably address
Sergeant.
that better
Sorry.
because of the way the permit runs through their office.
Okay,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry, Sandra.
It's okay.
Okay, this is where it gets confusing. I was trying not to make it confusing.
know.
It's gonna be confusing.
Based on the fact that this application was done on September 24th of 2013, they are valid for 1 year from the date of application if they were to be issued. So she paid $30 for a permit that would last until September 24th of 2014. We are obviously past that point because of the continuances that have been granted to her. So she is in essence paid for a permit that she never used in that 1 year period. So I have had a conversation with her explaining to her because of the continuances, if this permit is issued by the board today, then she is to return to our office and she has to pay another $30 for the next following year. And it would be, from today's date, it would be valid for 1 year until 2015. But they're not done by calendar year, they're done 12 months from the date of issue.
But if she's denied today,
Then she's spent $30 and she's got her appeal process and she has been officially denied. And she has to wait 12 months to reapply
thank you, from today.
from today, yes, sir.
Thank you. I think that was your question, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, I know it's confusing.
Thank you, Sergeant.
No worries.
Any other questions? Oh, you're in the middle of trying to lead our conversation, aren't you?
But I didn't know if anybody had any questions.
Well, let's have a motion and we'll see if we get a second and then we'll have comments and questions.
Okay. First of all, I do think it's commendable that your general manager would put his, business at risk to come and testify today. And he does understand that, you know, if something were to happen in your case, that, he would be responsible and he is taking on that charge. So that is commendable. I still have an issue with, two DUIs within a 1.5 to 2 year period. And you are still on probation for one. So, and the fact that you didn't disclose the second DUI on your initial application. So with that, I am gonna make a motion to deny the alcohol permit.
Okay, so we're actually making a motion to overturn the recommendation of the License Review Board, which recommended that she get a license. So we're making a motion to overturn their recommendation.
Okay, was that a 3-2 vote?
Now, it would say 4-1, 3-1,
3-1, okay,
3-1 vote.
okay, yes. Then
Okay.
I'm making a motion to, deny the recommended approval from the Alcohol Review Board.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's a second by Commissioner Cupid. Any other comments? Commissioner Ott?
My comments are, the reason we're having the hearing, and one of the things, and Mr. Hensley always does a good job of asking the question, if the applicant understands the importance and the significance of IDing the people trying to get alcohol. There is testimony from both the applicant and the manager of the store that on numerous occasions, we don't know the exact number, but on numerous occasions prior to the DUIs, that she did indeed stop underage people from getting alcohol. And so I think that what we're issuing here, we're not up here passing judgment on the DUIs. That was the court's function. Yes, I know it's in the code, but what we're up here is to make sure that the applicant understands the importance and the significance of checking IDs and making sure that people that are legal to drink are the only ones that are allowed to drink. And with the testimony I've heard, I'm comfortable that she is capable of doing that. You know, similar to the other case, she has 2 DUIs. She has been to court. She is going through the consequences of that. But as pertaining to the alcohol server's license, which is what we're being asked to consider, I'm just comfortable that she knows the rules and indeed will enforce them.
Commissioner?
Yes, I'm sorry, Chairman.
Go ahead.
Yes, I would like to share that not only is Ms. Broadway responsible for checking IDs, but it looks as if her training also entails for her to exercise some judgment with respect to someone's ability to contain alcohol. And it's challenging to see that she would have the inability to judge her own ability to contain it, let alone would be able to exercise that when serving others. So that's my one concern. My second concern is that the last DUI just occurred last year, and the proximity of that to this year, I mean, it's very close, unlike the last case when we were looking at convictions. I just threw in my notes from 2006 and I believe from also 2009. So I also have some concern there. I also have another concern that these 2 incidents took place within a less than 2-year time frame. And I just wonder, again, within that short span of time, if we have allowed this current circumstance to fully digest with Ms. Broadway for consideration to serve someone else, there's a very high risk that someone could have been hurt, someone could have been killed by her actions. And that's the risk that we take whenever somebody is consuming alcohol. And it's very difficult to feel comfortable with the short amount of time considered to let that risk remain. And I just don't feel comfortable that this is appropriate at this time to grant the license.
Okay, I'll just, thank you. I'll weigh in. We have a young lady who had 2 issues, as Commissioner Ott said, that were dealt with in the court and are being considered by the court. She has continued to work at an establishment that provides some kind of support. The gentleman, Mr. Hummel, has taken twice now the opportunity to come speak to us to make sure that we understood that he is putting his reputation and his store's reputation behind supporting her. I think that's huge in my mind, especially the reputation I know that TMAC has and its policies regarding alcohol. Personally, I mean, number one. Number two, she has stated that she does not drink anymore, which I think is a huge statement for a young lady to make, young person any make, given the pressures that are upon folks. And it speaks to her character, her desire to do this. And the third thing that just gnaws at me is that she could easily go to Canton and get this license without any problem. But for being in Cobb, she's denied. It's a good company she's working for. It's a good manager. It's good policies. She's indicated that she's made a commitment to do better and turn her life around. I'd like to frankly see her get the money she needs to do to move forward, to get a degree from KSU and do other things. So I wouldn't be surprised if she's up here as a store manager in the near future as a result. But in any event, I believe we're at a point here where this person deserves another opportunity to move forward, and I think I've been consistent with that. Any other comments?
I'm sorry,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry to speak after you again. Something else that gives me pause too, and I didn't state it before, is that we have an application where she wasn't forthcoming with an arrest. And to me, that bothers me because, again, that application was emphasized, it states to state every arrest. And it looks as if the applicant chose to not adhere to those instructions. And if she's not adhering to those instructions, which are spelled out, bolded, and underlined, I think it does cause into play, is she going to be willing to follow every other instruction to the law? And the risk, again, with the DUI can be deadly.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Call the question. The motion to deny or overturn the recommendation of the License Review Board has failed 2-3. Commissioners Lee, Gorham, and Ott in opposition. Do you have a motion you'd like to make, Burrell, Ms. Burrell?
No.
So we go forward, correct? Or do we have to accept it?
No, you can make a motion to approve it.
Okay.
Someone else can.
Okay. Appreciate all the input. I was asking the county attorney what we need to do.
You said Commissioner Burrell.
I think you need a second motion.
Thank you very much. So I'll make a motion that we uphold the recommendation of the License Review Board. It's a recommendation to provide the license to Miss Broadway. Is there a second?
Second, and with the clear understanding that any further trouble and will the license be automatically revoked? Or can we put that as a condition?
Sergeant.
If our office is made aware of anything new that comes up that would be a condition to revoke or pull her back in front of the License Review Board, we could do that within the year. If not, and we're not made aware of anything, when she would come in and renew in October of next year, we rerun her criminal history. If there's any new charges that are deniable based on the code, it would be denied.
Does that happen automatically, or does the chairman need to put it in his motion?
No, sir, she has to renew every year.
No,
at
I'm
our
talking
office.
about if something comes to your attention.
Oh, no, we get notified with officers, they'll make a report, or they'll notify us that they had contact with somebody. She may want to notify us if something happens.
Okay. So we'll modify the motion to give you that license, overturn the recommendation. If there's any circumstances that between now and, well, you gotta go back and apply for a new license. During that license period, if such anything occurred that you know would compromise the license based on what you know now, you're to bring that to the attention of the sergeant, who will then allow us to be notified as well. Commissioner Ott seconds that motion. Any other comments? Call the question. Motion carries 3-2 with Burrell and Cupid in opposition. Thank you. Agenda item number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the matter of Rhonda Shiver. I do not think she's in attendance. Is Rhonda Shiver here? Therefore, it's the board's pleasure to either, I believe this is her first time, correct, in front of the board, to grant a continuance. Maybe the inclement weather caused a failure to show. Historically, we've allowed one continuance if someone fails to show, or you can vote to uphold the action.
Commissioner Cupid.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for us to continue this to the next 9 a.m. BLC hearing.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any comments? Call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I believe that concludes that tab, and for the next tab is the second public comment. I'm assuming there's no speakers since there's no one else.
speakers.
All right, that moves us to the next tab, which is commissioner comments.
We have appointments.
Appointments.
Oh, appointment. Hold on. Yeah, I know I do. Yeah, let me get there. Okay, so that takes us to tab 14. Item number 1 is to appoint Denise Hawley to Keep Cobb Beautiful Board, and that is brought forward by me, so I'll make a motion to approve that appointment.
Second.
Okay, any comment, question? Call the question. That motion carries 4-0. Item number 2 is brought forward by Commissioner Gorham and Commissioner Burrell, and that's to reappoint Carter Chapman to the Airport Advisory Board, Post 2. Have a motion?
I would like to make a motion, but before I do, I would like to thank Mr. Chapman for his service in the past and for agreeing to continue. We have a lot of excitement going on at the airport, and he is going to stay on for the next 2 years to get us through all that. So with that, I make a motion to approve Carter Chapman to the Airport Advisory Board, Post 2.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Call the question. And that carries 4-0. Okay, so now we're up to Commissioner's public comment. You want to go first?
Sure. No comment.
Commissioner Cupid?
Yes, I would like to thank those who participated in yesterday's town hall meeting at South Cobb High School. Would like to personally thank the principal of the high school for opening up that venue, and want to thank staff for spending your Monday night before a 9 a.m. BOC meeting out in the South Cobb area. With that, I want to let you know that I'm having another town hall meeting coming up at the end of this month on October 30th, and that will be held at the Ron Anderson Community Center in Powder Springs, and that will be at 7 p.m. I would also like to share that at the end of this week, in conjunction with Keep Cobb Beautiful, we'll be holding a community cleanup event in the Six Flags business area with Six Flags Park and Yancey Cat in partnership. That will be Friday at 1 p.m. until 3 p.m. We will have a volunteer sign-in that begins at 12:30 p.m. at the Epicenter located off of Riverside Parkway. If it rains this Friday, our rain date for this event will be the following Friday, October 24th. To sign up, please call 770-528-1135. Finally, I'd like to share that I am grateful for the help of county staff, the Board of Elections, and the Elections Director, and certainly many leaders in the community for helping to obtain a Saturday voting option in the South Cobb community. We will actually have a satellite location open on Saturday, October 25th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that will be at the South Cobb Community Center at 620 Lions Club Drive in Mableton. Early voting will begin at that same location for that week as well, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I don't have information in front of me, but I believe early voting has begun as early as this week, I believe in our main elections office, and anyone from the county is free to go to that site to vote early. But do want to express my debt of gratitude not only to those I mentioned, but also to media to getting some attention to this, and us being able to get the word out since Saturday the 25th is just around the corner. Thank you.
Commissioner Burrell?
Thank you. I have several thank yous. We've had a lot of events this past week in District 3, and I'd first like to thank the Friends of Mabry Park, the board, and the visitors that came out Saturday for our preview day. Despite the rain and bad weather, we had a good attendance, and it was a great success in making the citizens aware of a beautiful park in District 3.
And also a big thanks to our K-9 team for coming out and doing a demonstration, and also Fire Station 14 and our Parks and Rec staff and team. Also a big thank you to Cobb County Purchasing, Keep It in Cobb Committee, and all of our department employees for their participation in our final How to Do Business with Cobb seminar for 2014. This was held up at KSU Center in conjunction with District 1 and District 3, and we appreciate the participation and look forward to meeting with you all again next year. Also, a big thanks to Animal Control for the wonderful job at the Forever Fest that was held October 4th, and also thanks to the vendors who attended, the folks who adopted Forever Pets, and the K-9 team for being on board with that as well. Last Thursday, I had the honor, along with Commissioner Ott and Chairman Lee, of attending a public safety appreciation casino night for our Precinct 4 police officers. It was a great event sponsored by the East Cobb Business Association, that they are now making it an annual event the last couple years, and also sponsored by Wellstar. So I'd just like to thank them for hosting the event. It was a great night, attended by several of the officers from Precinct 4, and it was just our way of saying thank you for all that they do for us in Cobb County. As far as announcements, tonight I'm having a community meeting for zoning case Z56, which is Shallowford and Childers Road. We've all received a lot of emails and comments about this case, and I thought that it would be a good idea to host a community meeting for folks to come and hear a presentation from the applicant and also ask questions and get answers. The meeting will be tonight from 6:30 to 8 at the Mountain View Library at 3320 Sandy Plains Road. Also, to piggyback on Commissioner Cupid's announcement of early voting, it has started, and you can visit the website cobbelections.org to see where the locations are and the hours for early voting throughout the county. On this Wednesday morning at 7:30, the newest Walmart Neighborhood Market in District 3 is opening, and you're cordially invited to attend. It's at 3101 Roswell Road, so come out and see what they have to offer. Tomorrow night, here in this room at 7 p.m., the Neighborhood Safety Commission will be conducting their panel discussion on active shooter. And it will be also televised on TV 23, and it starts at 7 p.m. tomorrow night here in this room. This Thursday night is the 4th annual Books for the Evening Library Gala, and it starts at 6, and it is at the Marietta Country Club. If you haven't gotten a ticket, and they're probably sold out by now, but you can go online to cobblibraryfoundation.org. They're sold out. Also, as you heard earlier, October 27th, Monday at 5 o'clock on the square, we ask you to celebrate Diaper Day and bring diapers for needy families and for the nonprofits. And you can visit cobbdiaperday.com for more information. Thank you.
Commissioner Cupid, you said you had one more announcement.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Ott. I forgot to share that we have our Public Safety Education Block Party occurring in the Osborne-Milford area this Saturday from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. And that's going to be at St. Philip United Methodist Church, located at 2400 Favor Road. And I look forward to seeing you out there.
All right, thank you. I just have a couple events happening in District 2. First off, on October 30th, I also will be having a town hall meeting from 7 to 8:30 over at Mount Bethel United Methodist Church in the Fellowship Hall. Coming up on the October 20th will be the official groundbreaking for the Windy Hill Road projects. There are 4 of them, and that is at 10 o'clock. And this one I can't believe you didn't mention. On October 24th is the National Square Dancing Convention. Yes.
It's my husband that's from Oklahoma, not me, so.
All
And
right.
his parents were square dancers.
Well,
Thank
anyway,
you.
so on October 24th at 3 o'clock, or it's actually, it's probably all afternoon, but I know we've all been invited, at 3 o'clock at the Galleria for the National Square Dancing Convention. And finally, also on October 30th, it's a busy night, will be the Dobbins Joint Land Use Study, the next meeting for the public, and that's at 6:30 at Marietta High School. And just so folks know, that is not necessarily because the base has been put on the list to close. It is basically the community and the military and some folks getting together to work on the land use around the base and of the base. Ms. Trankerson, any announcements? We have to ask you.
I don't know of anything, but there's a ribbon cutting coming up, and I need to get the date to you for the Vet Center.
Oh, that's right.
28th.
October 28th, the county has constructed, along with the Georgia Properties Commission and the Veterans Administration, a local veterans office over at Powder Spring Station. And October 28th, we will have the official ribbon cutting. Okay. Oh, wait, I don't think we have the time yet. 10? Voice from up behind, in the back. 10 o'clock on October 28th. So everyone will get a formal invitation. Anyone else have any announcements? We are adjourned.